The Christians took the whole Christian Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So that if you want to go to the source, don't go to King James. Go to ancient Egypt and you've got a Bible that's 10,000 years older than anything that these Christians have. You have students going through college, graduating with a degree, and then they can't even write their own name. I began to study the history of Africa, particularly the history of Ethiopia and Egypt. You go back and study the ancient history of Egypt, and especially the religion of ancient Egypt, and they had a Bible. I have a good English translation of it in 3 volumes in one, called The Theban Recension of the Book of the Dead. And in this, you take this Egyptian Bible and compare it with the King James Bible, which is popular among the Protestant denominations in the United States. And you study the Egyptian Bible and you study the Christian Bible. The Egyptian Bible goes back 10,000 years. The King James Bible only goes back about 300 years. And then you study these 2 books and compare them, and you find out that the Christians took the whole Christian Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So that if you want to go to the source, don't go to King James. Go to ancient Egypt and you've got a Bible that's 10,000 years older than anything that these Christians have.
Professor! I got it open! Good heavens, man! Great Scott, we've discovered the fountain of all knowledge of Egypt in the entire world. Do you realize the importance of this moment, Major?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you see the brilliancy? The untold years?
I did, sir.
Oh, this is medicine. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
That's Father.
Slide. Look! What is this?
See. Says, cannot. This is the elixir of life, sir.
Elixir of life?
The cure for all diseases. Wait. See here. Wait,
give it to me.
The inscription on the bottom.
Give it to me. Give it.
Open at other end.
This can't be, man.
What?
You know what this is?
What is it, Buddha?
It's the Book of Life. In the beginning, when man arrived on Earth, the black gods did leave their spacecraft, and they walked, and they named the beasts of the sea and the animals of the land.
Heavens.
And man in his blackness did walk the earth, making medicine.
Medicine?
They discovered type. These were all black people got down. Wait a minute.
Now?
There ain't nothing in here about whitey. This is ours. Wait till the brothers hear this.
Buddha.
Oh, get this book out of here, baby. This can't be real.
Buddha, control yourself, don't you see?
What do you mean, Jack? Look at this here. Black people started the music and the brain surgery back in the year 3 BC.
Yes, Buddha.
Man, they was getting down. This is it, brother.
Yes,
everybody gonna know about this. This book. We can change the history. Civilization will be changed.
By all means.
Yeah. This is gonna be it.
Get the bulldozers. There's nothing here.
But.
Shut up! Good heavens, time for tea, eh? What?
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was. Look again. Read it.
This isn't the Matrix.
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
What are they?
Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one.
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
Someone.
I won't lie to you, Neil. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed.
Why?
I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
Got a good show lined up for you today. We'll continue off where we left off yesterday. Yesterday was a very, very interesting show. So I think I'm going to expand on some of the topics we were talking about on yesterday. I think we'll get into that a little bit. Oh, and a quick reminder, there's going to be a webinar this weekend. If you want to check it, Donna Bay is having a webinar this weekend. Make sure you tune in on that. I will be finishing the notary webinar tonight. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to do the webinar yesterday. I was going to do a free webinar and get a chance to schedule it, but I will be doing that. It will be a free webinar. I will send out a note. Y'all get an email. If you're not on our email list, you need to get on our email list by going to radiohighfrequency.com. On the email list, y'all, a lot of good information we send out in the email. Make sure you get a hold of that. I'm going to go back and finish where we left off from yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about fringe type information. So we were kind of getting into some discussions about the Anunnaki and alternative creation stories and angels and extraterrestrials and, stuff like that. Got a lot of good feedback from that show yesterday. Y'all actually interested in that type of stuff. Like, wow, I mean, people really want to know about that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about it. That's what I'm here to do. We're here to talk about the things that they don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about that stuff now. I don't want to talk about that stuff right there. In fact, that's supposed to pass. But I'd have guests on it, like, man, I don't know if I can talk about that stuff right there. He'd be talking about it. Like, man, I don't think about all this stuff. So we're going to get to it today. Got a couple of books I'm going to kind of pull some stuff out of, you know, because yesterday I was kind of like touching on some stuff. Today what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to the book and pull this stuff out for y'all to see, if y'all kind of see what I was talking about. I don't want y'all to think I'm making this stuff up, you know. Even though we are in the age of information, we're in the age of information, I hope y'all know that, where you have the ability to look up things for yourself. You shouldn't believe anything anyone tells you. As a matter of fact, that was one of our mantras in the Nuwabia Nation. Don't believe me, check it out for yourself. That was our mantra. You know, you had to go find this stuff out for you. And I lived by that, too. I was guys, okay, I'm going to go look this up. And one of the books that I used to go and verify a lot of things out of, and I'm going to give y'all one of these books. One of the books that I used to go and verify a lot of stuff out of was a series of books called The Matrix. The author of the book his name is Val Valerian. Val Valerian. They got a lot of, and it's Matrix 1, Matrix 2. Matrix 1 came out like the 80s. Matrix 2 came out in 1991. And these were some very, very good books. I'm going to see if I can locate some of the books on the internet. But I'm going to start out talking about, let me see if I can find this. What it did, it's a series of books. Let me give you some background on the books. Well, you know, what are the books talking about? Well, what the books talk about? They talk about a lot of things. They have an eclectic selection of subjects that are addressed. Some that you may be familiar with, some that you may not be familiar with. There's a lot of discussion that goes on that talks about extraterrestrials and mind control, pretty much. And the mind control is something that, like the general manipulation of human beings, abductions, blind humanoid contact. That's what I was talking about, the blondes and everything. You know, there's some white extraterrestrials out there. There are some white extraterrestrials. The government's involvement, soul sharing. Let's see, what else we got in here? Bases, all this kind of stuff. Something in here I'm looking for in particular. I got a section on mind control efforts of the United States, chronology of eugenics in the United States and Germany. I mean, this thing has everything. Conversations with advanced species. They've actually had documented, documents of people who've actually had discussions. There is, let me give y'all something. Y'all can Google this for yourself. There is an entity on the internet who goes by the name of the Awareness. The Awareness. The Awareness has been on the internet since the early 90s. I'm talking about the early days at the beginning, the advent of the internet, when dial-up was still around. Some of these young people don't know nothing about dial-up. Makes me feel old. Makes me feel like, when I think about dial-up on the internet, it's kind of like I kind of see how people felt about the rotary phone. You know, people are like, dial-up, what the hell is that? You know, dial-up was like, that was the main thing, you know, for the longest, you know. And now y'all got high-speed internet, you know, and just spoiled to death. I say something about, you know, dial-up. People looking at me like, you know, what are you talking about? Dial-up. And tapes and things. You remember cassette tapes? Now, I ain't going to go back. 8-track tapes was old to me. That was old. But we had cassette tapes, and then went to CDs. We thought that was the shit. Now, CDs are played out. I hope y'all know that CDs. I mean, I don't see any reason to buy I don't even see a reason really to buy a DVD player. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're just kind of behind on technology too. You're kind of behind. There's not even a need to buy a DVD player with these new televisions or anything, but it's like, wow, everything is like, all those external mediums are like, you know, like played out. You know, it's nobody can use that stuff anymore. What I'm looking for now, I'm looking for a document because I want to read it over the air to you. Oh, there it is, right there, Matrix 3. And I want to start out by talking about virgin births, because I want y'all to get that. Somebody contacted me about that, so I'm gonna go into that a little bit. Silent weapons for quiet wars. Diagram showing theory of planetary control. Let's see. Cloning in the New World Order. Connections between the Vatican and Masonry. The order connections to Phi Beta Kappa. Order of the St. John of Jerusalem. Pathways to higher consciousness. Let me see if is it in here? Let's see. I should have looked this up. The Virginia death law. Oh, they got a Virginia death law. Kennedy assassinations. Mind control. More mind control. Cellular telephone networks plan. Cellular network. Yeah, I remember on this thing with the cell phones. I remember back in 1997. 1997, they passed a law that said that all cell phones were going to be tracking devices. This was in 1997. Let me see if I can find this. It was the NSA. Let me see what it laws. Stingy tracking device, NSA cell phone tracking, local locations worldwide. I think it was 1997. Let me see if I can pull this up while I'm looking for this. In October, yeah, there it is right here. Let me see if I can. Top-level communications, top-level telecommunications, DRT box. Surveillance systems, and recently published screenshots from NSA's boundless informant tool about France, Spain, Norway, Afghanistan. We see the mysterious term DRT box. 33, is it digital receiver technology? And, you know, I know they were saying that those cable boxes are receivers, too. They're two-way receivers. That's how they can look in your house and tell what's going on in your house, because the cable box is a receiver, and they actually can look in your house and tell what's going on. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I got access to technology where that makes that right there is so within the realm of possibility, I wouldn't even doubt it. I mean, matter of fact, it's kindergarten technology right now to be able to do something like that. It's like it's such a low-level technology, people wouldn't even believe it. So I've never seen the technology, but just my knowledge of what I have seen, I'm like, yeah, they probably got that easy. That's nothing to do. where is this thing? Human auric bands, electromagnetic waveforms. I'm about to put this thing in y'all's chat room. The chat room for you. So y'all can go to the link and see it for yourself. And started seeing they've been doing this since 1997, so you can only imagine what they got today. And this was for cell phones. So you can only imagine. Trust me, listen to this, y'all. Every cell phone that y'all have out there, the federal government can turn your cell phone into a microphone, and they can record everything that you're saying in the room or anything, because they got technology for that's available to us for free. And some of it is in your if y'all go into your Android market, they got it. So if they got technology like that in your Android market, what do you think the NSA has? Y'all better pay attention. All those days are over for all the women out there. You know how back in the day they used to say women can just they slicker than men. Man, they used to say that. They say, well, women are slicker than men. They can go and cheat and be slicker than men. Them days are over. Trust me on that. Those days are over. Y'all ass can be found out too. And that's what the women like to do. They like to do dirt and come back and point out all the dirt you're doing. Real interesting. But let's see. Let me find this. Where is it at? I'm looking for it. Man, I'm going to have to probably come back to that. Y'all. I can't spend all my time on the air looking for. I'm going to find it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find it, and then I'm going to post it. Because I wanted to give y'all the corporation. What I wanted to do, I'm going to tell you what I was looking for. What I was really looking for was the corporation that was conducting all the experiments into women having babies without men. And I want y'all to see that technology because they actually get into the science of it and how it actually is done. And what happens as a result of it, that the result of it is always she has a female child that looks exactly like the mother. It's like a cloning process that actually happens. It's like the mother can clone herself. And I can't remember if it was in Matrix 1 or 2 or 3 or anything like that. But I guess I can go on and we can continue talking about what we were talking about yesterday while I'm looking at it. Y'all know yesterday I was in the middle of talking about the Anunnaki. And is this it right here? I think I might have found it. You mean a virgin birth? Oh, that's something else. But anyway, yesterday we were talking about the Anunnaki. I'm going to concentrate in a minute, y'all. Just be patient. I'm sitting here looking for some stuff because I want y'all to get it. Actually, look at this. I actually found some information. Oh, here, let me give y'all this. This is Matrix 4. A copy of Matrix 4 is on the internet, y'all. Here you go. Here's a copy of Matrix for you. If you're in the chat room, there is a copy. That used to be about almost a $200 book. There's the link to it. You can download it. You can copy that out the link, and you can download it. That's Matrix 4. Just so y'all can get a little y'all get a little sample of these books and the things that they talk about. It might be in that book right there. It might be in the Matrix 4. I forgot. It's like 5 books, so I can't go through all the books looking for it. I ain't got time. But, we got some calls. Oh, and the phone lines are open, too, y'all. Y'all know it's open forum on days like this, too, if y'all want to just come in and just conversate. let me pull in this call real quick before I go in. 312-8350 on High Frequency Radio. Did you want to comment?
Hello, good afternoon. This is Nasser Ali. How are you all doing today?
All right, good. What's going on? How you doing?
Nothing much. I just joined in the call, and I heard the phrase that kind of caught my attention, brother, was when you said the mother. When you just said just a few moments ago, the mother clones herself.
No, well, what it is a virgin birth. Right? There was a debate of whether a woman can have a child without a man.
Parthenogenesis.
Huh?
That's the term for it. Parthenogenesis. That's the name.
Parthenogenesis. That is, you're absolutely 100% correct. And I had the research, and I was looking for the research, and I wanted to. I was looking for there's a company actually that was doing the research, and basically their findings was that yes, it is true a woman can have a child without a man, but it's always a female child, and it always looks exactly like the mother.
Yeah.
So when I say
absolutely.
Clone, it's almost like it was a clone of the mother. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it is actually, that's the way it was originally intended, because everybody has to remember that even if you take the X chromosome and the Y chromosome and you trace it back to the most common recent ancestor, women have actually been on the planet like 80,000 to 100,000 years longer than men have.
And you know what? I would probably agree with that because I've heard that before, and yes, I'm very much aware of all that research. But I'm going to tell you the problem I have that nobody ever addresses is that when you talk about the Anunnaki, they came here much longer than that, and they already a male and female. And everything in the universe has a male and female version. How do you account for lions having a male and female? How do you account for dogs and cats? How do you account for all the other animals? And when I look into the record, book, it says that when they came here, they were already male and female, the Anunnaki, all right? That really what it was is that the first creation of man was an amorphodite, that it really wasn't male or female. It was an amorphodite, and they didn't have the ability to reproduce except through like a test tube process. And then eventually they separated the races to actually give them the ability to actually procreate and have babies. Now, this isn't written in stone in the Anunnaki in cuneiform. So I understand when you talk about when you get into mitochondria Eve and people saying that, well, there were two X chromosomes, and when you look at a Y chromosome, you take a part of it off. That's how the Y chromosome was created. And I'm with all of that. But right now, when I look at the empirical evidence that's presented before us, the woman can't create a man. She can't create a man.
Well, no, actually, that's incorrect, technically. Because
okay, well, go ahead. I'm listening to you. And mind you, you need to be able to provide the research, because I got the research right here that they're conducting on it.
I'll put to you this way, brother, and this is why I make that statement. Scientifically, that statement accurate because a man is a devolved woman.
Why can't a woman be a devolved man? Because we both got mammary glands.
Because if you actually look at the process of how an embryo develops in utero, the clitoris becomes the penis. It's not the other way around. And
I do understand that, but the text,
so hold on,
it really doesn't have.
Wait, hold on, brother. You went through yours. Let me finish my point.
All right, go ahead. Listen, Dr. York. Wait a minute, Dr. York. Without all of the listen to me, brother.
When the
listen,
actual
I'm gonna let you talk.
I'm gonna
listen. Yes, I'm in the Nubian Nation. I'm aware of the Gold Book and the Black Book, and everything you're saying is coming right out of those books. So
no, I'm a biologist, brother. I didn't study anything you're talking about. I'm a scientist by nature.
All right, so go ahead.
Right,
I'm going to let you talk. I just let you know I'm aware of the information. So go ahead. Go ahead.
That's fine. Well, if you're aware of the information, then I don't know why you would say something contrary to it. But
I'm not saying anything contrary to it. What I'm saying is I'm questioning it, which I have the right to do, because when I look at the records, all right, and I'm seeing that you have entities that have already been coming to this planet all the time. And when you go and look on the Egyptian walls and you look in the Sumerian records and everything like that, they're saying something different. All right? That's all I'm saying. They're saying that they wait, hold on. Since you're wait a minute. Since you're a biologist, and you
brother, I got to ask you a question because this is the third time you've interrupted what I've said, and then you said for me to go. So which one do you want me to do? Do you want me to keep letting you going, or
no,
you gonna let me also?
You just asked me a question. You said you don't understand why I would contradict the information, and what I was saying to you
that was
that
a side point because you added that point in as you were giving me the floor. So you added that point in as you were mentioning it.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Because I'm gonna tell you. This is what I'm gonna say to you. Everything in the universe has two opposites. Everything. You can't point out anything in creation, nothing that doesn't have two polar opposites. Now go ahead.
Okay.
Nothing.
I'm not gonna agree or disagree with that point because I'm trying to stay on the original point.
That's a natural law. That's a fact in nature. You can look around.
It was not a fact. I didn't say it was.
That's a verifiable fact.
I didn't say it wasn't. I said that's not the original point that we started on. That's something that you added.
The point is that you're trying to say that men came from women, and I'm saying I'm questioning that because the fact is nature really doesn't jive with that because everything in the nature has two of everything.
That is not true, sir. That is not true. Now, if you're considering math...
Okay, you just said it's true. Now you're saying it doesn't. Show me something in nature that doesn't have two sides.
Let me state my point. Right.
Go ahead.
So the reason I say that is because if you approach it from the mammalian perspective, yes, that is true. But there are organisms that live in the universe that are asexual and are trisexual. So for you to make that statement, a blanket statement that everything in the universe has male and female is not factually accurate. That's all I'm saying. And so I don't want to give the audience the impression that that blanket statement applies to everything. Now, if you're saying in the animal kingdom, meaning that we are presuming outside of the physical soul and physical, the actual soul itself, you're talking about the physical vessel, and you limit it to mammals, yes, that is almost true. And for the most part, 99.99%, I totally agree with you.
Are you a mammal? Are you a mammal?
I'm a soul that has a physical body.
Are you classified, because you're a biologist, so are human beings classified as mammals?
If you go by the Title 15 definition,
yes,
let me finish, brother. You asked me a question. I got to answer you. If you're going to let me answer the way I want it. I'm not going to answer the way you want to answer. I'm going to answer the way I know.
Go ahead. It was a yes or no question, but go ahead.
No, it's not a yes or no question. You decide that you want a yes or no answer. I'm going to answer the way I want to because that's what I know.
Okay. Well, I was asking you in biology because you just said that you're a biologist. So I study biology.
I'm also a human rights defender, and I also know that biology also will not contradict the law. So my point is, in Title 15, there's a definition of animals, and it includes humans as an animal by federal law. Now, me personally, being a tradesman as a biologist, there's one answer. But as a spirit, I'm going to answer it one way, and as a human rights defender, I'm going to answer a third way. So if you ask me personally as Ness, I'm going to tell you I'm a soul that's attached to a physical body.
Okay, so if you're going to take the conversation there, then I can say that these asexual creatures that you're talking about, when you look at them on a spiritual level, they all possess a male and female gender associated with it, because gender is one of the 7 principles that regulate everything in the universe. So if you're going to utilize the conversation, wait a minute, hold on, because what you're doing, you're picking and choosing. So if you're going to pick and choose, and you just said you're going to answer the question the way that you want to, okay, and you just said I made a blanket statement, okay, then let's frame everything the correct way and make sure that it applies across the board. So if you want to jump from the physical realm into the spiritual realm, make that applicable to everything that you're talking about. I understand that the word animal comes from the word animate, to be alive. When you look at in a dictionary, it just means a living creature. That's all the word animal means. So go ahead. I'm gonna let you have a point. I ain't gonna interrupt you. I'm gonna let you go on.
If we're gonna make sure that we're framing the context correctly so you and I can agree on the basic terms as we're doing that. I love that shit, by the way, because some people don't, and then they get way off track on the conversation. If we're going to incorporate into this issue of spirit, then at the higher realms of spirit, there is no sex. There's just simply being. So when you said the lower realm and the physical realm, for the most part, I agree with your generality.
I beg to differ with you. I would beg. There's not sex in the sense that there is what happens on the physical realm, but there's an interaction of a masculine and feminine principle on the spiritual, mental, and physical planes.
Yes, but there are planes above those that do not.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Conscious mind is a masculine
principle. It depends
principle.
on what school of thought you're talking about, brother. Everything that you say, everything is a duality. At one point, everything came from one source. And
one school of thought. That's all the schools of thought. That's in every one of them.
No, it's not all schools of thought.
Name one that it's not.
It's not.
Name one that it's not.
I just did. You were talking over me. You couldn't hear me, brother. I said Eckankar.
Which one?
You were so busy trying to prove that I'm not accurate or true that you didn't hear my
Which
answer.
school of thought were you talking about? I didn't hear you. Which one? I didn't hear you.
I said Eckankar.
Who?
Eckankar.
Eckankar?
Yeah.
Eckankar. Okay, I'm going to look this up. I never heard of Eckankar. So spell that for me.
Eckankar. It is a school of thought. And in addition to that, let me finish. I'm going to encapsulate it for you. It does believe in the physical realm. It does believe in the lower levels, which people normally call the lower levels of awareness.
I mean, I want to pull this up. I've never heard of that. So pull it up.
Also believes that there are dualities in the realms above that, but it also believes at a certain point when you get close to the true source of all existence, the duality drops away and everything becomes oneness.
And that is exactly the same principle that the Kabbalion is talking about, which is source. That's all. That's everything has that same principle. You just said what I said.
Brother, get the complete thought if you keep interrupting me because you're missing the piece on the end. So my point was, let me
go ahead,
brother.
All right, go ahead.
You can't have the number 2 without the number 1. So for you to say that everything is a duality means that you're stepping over the point that there was a oneness before there had to be 2.
It was. There was a oneness.
That's all I was saying.
Okay, well then listen to me for a second. All right. The oneness that you're talking about, the oneness which is source, all right, there are 7 principles that derive from that source. All right, and those principles are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Those 7 principles exist in everything in manifest creation. Everything starts with a mentalism. Everything corresponds with that thought, and everything that you see in manifest creation is vibrating. You can't point out anything in creation that's not vibrating.
Can I ask you a clarification on something?
Go ahead.
When you say manifest creation, are you speaking to just the physical plane, or are you speaking to the... No, of course I'm not speaking... Let me finish.
I know what you're saying. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You're framing the question, and I'm thinking that applies to the physical plane and the lower spiritual plane.
When you talk about the spiritual, mental, and physical planes, on each one of those planes you have vibration. They're just vibrating at a rate that is not perceptible to your human senses, to the tactile senses, okay?
Correct.
So when you're talking about on the mental, you are talking about movement, all right? Because things do not...
I'm talking about the threshold.
When you get back to threshold, when you get back to source, that's called undifferentiated. All right, or no thing.
Okay.
All right.
So I agree with that term.
Into something, when you come from no thing into something, that means you have movement. So
and
now
you have a duality now.
Then you have different degrees of movement because the spirit, mental, and physical plane all shade into each other. All right. So
absolutely,
the
I agree with that.
vibration would be the spiritual, which you call spirit or the ethers, and then you have mental, and then you have physical. Physical, this is a plane of results. Everything that exists on the physical plane has to exist in the spiritual plane first, because that's the cause, and the effect is this physical. And that principle exists, my brother, and no matter what school of thought that you get into.
I don't disagree with that. My point was
earlier. That's what I said earlier.
That everything is a duality is not a comprehensive
duality is yes. Everything does have a duality. It's called polarity. Everything has that. You have up, down, night, day, hot, cold, hard, soft. Anything that you can name
manifest reality. But there are other planes of existence that do not have that duality, and they are not manifest.
All I'm trying to say is, brother, that the principle, and you got to think it like this, okay? Because take your mind when I'm about to say all penises and vaginas for just a second, all right? Sure. When I say masculine principle and feminine principle, you can interchange positive
the actual physical act of sex. You're talking about the different forces and being receptive
and active. Active and receptive.
Yeah, I don't get caught on that. I'm good.
So for there to be creation, there has to be an active force and there has to be a receptive force. So now some people say that is masculine and feminine. The feminine aspect is always receptive. That's why it's called female, because it's receptive. When you look at a battery, the positive pole is active, the negative pole is receptive, and you can create electricity. Everything in creation has that masculine and feminine aspect associated with it. So when I make a statement, and why I say earlier that I'm questioning things, because when I go to the rules of nature, and I'm looking at the rules of nature, I'm saying, well, I'm not really seeing that kind of doesn't jive well with how nature operates. And that's how I base everything off of. When I start to question something, I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but in nature, one of the principles of nature is polarity. Everything has, and gender. So everything has two opposite sides, and everything has a male and female aspect associated with it, an active and passive principle associated with it, and it manifests on the physical plane for us in the form of sex and physical sex. That exists on the mental and spiritual plane in a different form. In the mental plane, it comes in the form of the conscious and subconscious mind, which they call Mother Nature. Even in your Bible, they'll say Father God, Mother Nature. Wisdom is always referred to as a she.
The Bible's not mine, but okay.
I mean, but the principle, if you can put your religion to the side, because I'm not religious either. I examine all these religions, and when you look at it, I can see the principle, what's being said. To the adept, they'll be able to see what's saying, but the neophyte won't be able to see it. They're just going to go straight off of what's given to them, which is a religious interpretation. But go ahead, brother. I've talked enough. I'm going to let you speak. I don't want to be accused of not letting you speak. Go ahead.
No, it's okay, brother, because the good thing I do, and I do enjoy your show every time. Sometimes I don't always get a chance to join live. Sister L is the one that kind of introduced me to y'all's show, so I thoroughly enjoy it. And when I start a post on Facebook, I had a few minutes, and I was like, let me join in and kind of see what's going on. So I don't disagree with anything you've said. My only concern is sometimes our people, meaning us, originals, aboriginals, Nubians, whatever term you want to apply, you know which subset of the genetic code that I'm referring to that manifests the way that it is. People sometimes miss opportunity to pull from the undifferentiated source because they are often trying to play in the lower realm of duality. And I say that as a practicing witch, and I say it and I mean it. Because the truer source, like, for instance, we're about 3 days away from the new moon, right? It's the last new moon of the year. So I do my rituals on the new moon because that is the most powerful for me. And it's weird because a lot of my friends who practice magic actually do the opposite. They go on the full moon because they're like, it's full, it's bright, you can do all these things. But I'm like, yeah, but y'all are missing something important. The new moon is the undifferentiated matrix where you can speak into the void and create out of nothing. Right. And so because of that reason, I always especially watch my daughter. I watch her behavior around new moon, and she sometimes wigs out on new moons. My youngest child, my 6-year-old, he wigs out on new moons. I also pay attention to political things that are happening within 72 hours before and 72 hours after, okay? Because
give the science on 72 real quick. Can you give the science on 72? Because 72 is a very significant number. You said you're a witch, right? You're a practicing witch?
Absolutely. There's a lot of different ways you can approach it. You can approach it mathematically, financially, and say the rule is 72. You can go by the free enterprise Euro-Christian commercial magical system, which says 3 days you have a contract. Right. They're all the same. That 3 days, 72-hour matrix gives you a window of time before and after to prepare and solidify things that you are placing upon the matrix of the universe. I just happen to focus on the dark side because that's where like you said, the womb is the dark side. Okay, so those who practice sex rituals do not realize that the purpose of a sex ritual is not the sexual satisfaction. It's to raise the woman's orgasm, going back to vibration, to get to the higher vibration, so that the man can speak to her in her ear and ask a question of her in that heightened state and get an answer straight from the void. It's not about sexual gratification. She's a gateway. She's a portal.
That's nice.
So
that's nice.
Brothers don't understand that they're trying
to
get sexual gratification out of it when you opening up vortexes in the universe, and then you just throw that energy and just toss it down the toilet after raising that orgasm. What did you do with all that energy? Nothing.
I like
you
that.
Just wasted.
I like that.
It's the
That's
same way that
nice explanation you just gave,
pastors in church, and pastors do it big time. Pastors can raise women to an orgasmic state in church, and they will have a church full of women, excuse my French, horny as hell on Jesus. They will raise that energy and do nothing with it and let it dissipate, and not realizing that it's almost palpable. And if brothers walk in the room, you can actually feel these women's vibration humming in the church room. And then sexual energy, I
was going to ask you a question, because I study magic as well, not in the witchcraft realm, but have you ever heard of the fact that in 72, the reason I asked you is that 72, there are 72 zones girdling the earth, and there is a spirit, a positive and negative pole spirit that governs every 20 minutes. And you take that 20 minutes, you divide it, you get 72. That's where the 72 came from, the 72 zones. There's 72 commissioners that made the Uniform Commercial Code. You'll see this 72 number come up all the time. This 3 is a magic number. And I was just wondering, that's how I was taught that you do your, when you do like evocations, because this is in science of evocation, that there are actually spirits that govern certain time frames because of the way that the earth revolves. I don't know if you're familiar with that science or not. You may have something else. You may want to look into it.
If you take 72 and you divide it by 4, you will also get that 18 number in there. And a lot of people don't realize that the Olmec calendar is based off of 20 days and 18 months, plus 5 on the end. So a lot of people don't understand and I'm agreeing with you, that, and there's a reason a lot of people get angry when I point out that the free enterprise system is based on Christianity, which is a commercial spiritual system. So everything that they've done, whether you want to call it Masonry or the Knights Templar or whatever, it's still a commercialized version of a spiritual system that's based off of the same numerical values of everything that's there, whether you're talking about the Wisconsin Rules of Civil Procedure 144 and you compare it to 144,000 that's supposed to be saved out the Bible, and realizing that Minnesota Rule 144 actually says you are of the age of minority until you actually put an affidavit on the record saying I'm grown and this birth certificate account was created for me. A lot of people don't understand that these numbers are all connected mathematically.
You know, now I'm going to tell you, brother, and you bringing out some very good points. The purpose of me doing this show, and I love it when people like you come on to the show, because this is, I understand. Like, see, somebody else might say that I'm a witch, and they'd have an aversion to it. That don't bother me at all. And I'm like, oh, I have somebody I can have a discussion with, you know, somebody who understands. You know, they've been taught that is something negative or something like that. And I understand that you have, just like you have witchcraft, Satanism, all these different things. They're all kind of like different schools of thought to me. I kind of look at and people's they select to practice something in a different way. Even a Satanist, I can have a discussion with a true Satanist, and they are knowledgeable about the laws of how you're very, very intelligent and know how things operate. And, you know, even though I do maybe their intentions are something I can't jive with, I have to respect the fact, like, wow, this dude right here got some knowledge on some stuff, on how the mechanics of how nature operates. But the reason that I did this particular show is because I wanted people to understand the fact that all these laws are subsets of higher laws. Correct. And it's distilling down, when you talk about positive law, which is man-made law, the people who are instituting these people are behind the scenes. They belong to organizations. Whether you're talking about, people talk about the Illuminati, and those are like, I feel like if they're well-known, they're probably not that effective. I would think that some of the organizations that are much, much more secretive are higher up the ladder than when you start getting down to the Illuminati and the Masons and Rosicrucians and different orders like that. But the reason, brother, that I do this natural law show was to let people know that, look, y'all got to learn these higher laws if you want to engage these people. Because one of the principles in the Kabbalion was he who serves on the higher rules on the lower. If you are serving or obeying the higher laws, you get to effectively control people who are operating on the lower levels. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. You can definitely influence, and absolutely you can control your immediate environment in a much more effective way. Absolutely. And I wanted to raise this point about the difference. A lot of people don't understand the difference between a Satanist and a Luciferian. They are not the same. A lot of people don't understand. They just think Lucifer and Satan is the same entity, and they are not the same school of thought. And like you said, most of these people that practice outside of traditional Abrahamic religions are not well-versed in understanding what's there. They don't understand. Like, for instance, I got a library. I got a reasonably nice library, but I actually was recommended by a practicing witch to read a little bit more about Luciferianism, and there was an interesting quote inside this book that they referred to. And the Luciferian quote was, any man that bends their knee to another man cannot be into self-preservation.
Wait, say it one more time. Say it one more time. I didn't catch it all.
Basically, the quote is, any man that bends his knee to another man outside of himself cannot be about self-preservation.
You know what? And I said the same thing. I always say I don't worship any man because you are the God. But people now the Bible basically says that you're a God. Gods don't worship. That's what we were told. Gods don't worship. I would phrase it like that. The gods don't worship. You know, and so you're not going to worship any other man or anything like that because all power is inside of you. But what do you think about that? What do you think about that?
And I think that the statement that you made, whether you're referring to the Bible or any of the other religions, it is a very similar thing. And some of these principles, no matter which religious school of thought you refer to, there are always at least one segment. There's at least one segment that is always similar in precept or concept across all of these, because a lot of these schools of thought are splinters of, like I said, I always go back to the undifferentiated source. A lot of these are different versions of the larger undifferentiated school of thought, which was the reason why I began to study other schools of thought, because there are aspects and times where I'll need to break out that Luciferian book and be like, okay, I'm dealing with some really dark shit here, and Christianity ain't going to help, and Islam ain't going to help, and Judaism ain't going to help. I need to understand what it is that I'm dealing with, why, where, when, and how. So absolutely, I will do what is most effective because that is what the universe requires of me. The universe does not require me to fail. The universe requires me to succeed. That's why I'm here. So if the tools are available for me to succeed, then I have to, of course, use my natural judgment and make sure that I'm making the most educated choice with the proper use of the resources that the universe has placed before me.
Let me ask you another question, and, this is something that I don't speak publicly about, but since I got you on the phone, people say, well, like Jay-Z, and they see them throwing up the symbols and all of this, and I'm saying that they just have the knowledge, and the religious-minded people don't understand what they are involved in. It couldn't necessarily be Would you say that there is such thing as good and evil?
As a general term, for the sake of describing, I'll say yes. Just to put it out there, I'll say yes. Just
Why?
To put the answer out there, I would just describe it as, is it, and of course I'm always on the mindset of you never do anything to destroy yourself. So self-preservation is an assumed thing you cannot go against.
Right.
So the answer that I'm saying that never goes against self-preservation. Good means that you are not only doing something to benefit yourself all the time, and evil typically means or is associated with personal gain at the detriment of another. Because you can make a personal gain and it not injure anyone, and you can make a personal gain and it benefits someone, and people usually put that in the category of good. If your personal gain is at the detriment of another person, people normally classify that as evil. So in that instance, free enterprise is evil because it abstracts cannibalism.
Now,
a merger,
I was going to say I like that. I like you're very well spoken. I like the explanation you gave, but I'm going to give you a little twist on it. But I don't want to interrupt you. Finish your thought.
Okay. So a lot of people don't understand that a lot of the things that our people are dealing with commercially here in the United States of America and globally is an abstracted version of physical cannibalism, and it starts on paper. Actually, at first it starts with a physical war. Then they actually implement paper. Then they come back and finish the job. So right now, we are on the tail end of that process, not realizing that it is merely abstracted cannibalism. Somebody sends a summons to your house, they bring you to court. If you don't show up, then the actual physical part on the other end comes where they engulf you commercially.
And you know what? And that's why you have to stand in honor is a spiritual concept, because you got to prevent it. Everything starts in the spirit before it goes into the physical. So you have to control the physical. You have to start it in that abstract world. You got to stop it there. And I would say this about good and evil. We don't say that there's good and evil. We say that there's agreeable and disagreeable, because the universe favors balancement. And a person who labels something evil is really taking something out of harmony and out of balancement with the natural order of things and their operation. And we label that as evil. Because really, if you go into good and evil, something may be good to you and evil to me. And it may be evil to me and good to you. Because we can get into those concepts when you talk about good and evil in that respect, that the way that the religious-minded people kind of put it out there. They kind of put it out there, well, that's good, that's evil. Well, good and evil could be an opinion, because the people who are doing it, like for instance, you know about entities. Let's take a succubus or an incubus.
Mm-hmm.
I know you know what that is, right?
Absolutely.
Or some type of familiar or something like that. Okay. They are a certain elemental. They have to do what's necessary for their survival. So you just said survival is the first rule, right?
Yep.
Okay. What if their survival depends on engendering negative emotions in you that are adverse or not beneficial to you? Is that good or evil? Because for them, that's a necessary for them to subsist off of. But for you, that's something that's not good for you. And
I do agree with you, and that's an excellent example as it relates to incubi and succubi.
Right.
They have to feed, they have to survive, and those who because remember, the succubus and the incubus never goes anywhere where it is not called for or welcomed. So there's also a spiritual principle of everything that happens to you, you call to yourself. So if something about your energy field called out to this entity, asking for that very intense sexual spiritual stimulation that typically is a little bit more than the average physical human being can produce, because that's what you need, and you're trading energy, so you're giving up some of your energy in exchange for this sexual, spiritual energy back from this heightened individual entity, that all it does, it trades its energy of sexual, spiritual stimulation for your actual part of your life source. That's what it does. But that's the contract. You agreed, you brought it to you, you exchanged the energy, you completed the contract. Ain't nothing wrong with it. That's just what it is. Now, once you realize that's what's going on, then you actually have to do the process necessary to expel that from your space and realize that that energy may not be helping you the way that you originally thought. Now, if you can't pull yourself out of it and you get deemed as a meal and she pour ketchup on you and eat you up because you didn't realize you needed to stop, then that means whatever lesson you chose this particular lifetime to get absorbed by that entity, obviously that must have been the way that the cards were laid out for you, because you couldn't pull yourself out of that cycle. And also your friends and family around you also had to witness that demise of this particular person, entity, soul, because if you really know somebody well, you should always know when a succubus or incubus spirit is around them and feeding on them, because it will show certain telltale signs around their eyes and over their root chakra and over their sexual energies as well. So you will always be able to tell there's something going on with their sexual energy, and then you got to figure it out. And if you need to find somebody else that can go in and pull their Akashic records or whatever you need to do to get that out of them, then you do that for somebody that you care for and you love. If you don't love them and you don't care for them, then let them get eaten the hell up. I know people who've had succubus and incubus experience around them, and to be honest, there's one that I have that is one of my familiars. I know how to keep it under control, but it kind of gets a little loose around the new moon. So when you hear women talk about men saying, you know, women can smell a man a mile away, around the new moon, I do turn werewolf-like, and I can smell damn near every woman in the room. So I got to keep myself on my own leash when it comes around the new moon, because I get kind of werewolf-like. I can smell everything, and that spirit kind of comes up, and it's really intense. And I've had partners that are witches ask me about that. They were like, what was that thing? And I was like, well, that's the other thing, and it's cool, he's there. But it never, ever, ever attempts to try to overtake. It only comes when I ask it. It is only there for her pleasure, and then when it's done, I put his ass back where he needs to be, and that's cool. But
well,
I'm not going
to. And that's cool, and I'm with you. But doesn't that is that in the example we gave earlier? Could you see that? How can you label that as good or evil? You know, doesn't it come down to kind of like the situation is like it kind of gives some opinion, because to the succubus, who has a right? Does a succubus have a right to exist? Does it have a sense of self-preservation?
Well, if it does exist, something either created it or created the situation for it to manifest. So the question of whether or not it has a right to exist is kind of after the fact.
Does it have its own? Because most familiars or elementals do have a semi-intelligence.
Absolutely, they do, and that's the reason why. Because there's another entity that I know of that is actually not from this planet, and it actually helps me channel my work as a human rights defender. And its blue has no pupils and has ridges with dots along the side, across, down the middle of its head. It's like a flesh mohawk. That entity actually shuts off all my emotions and just feeds me information. That's all he does. That's it. And that entity I channel when I sit down and do my work to try to help people understand what the hell is going on in their life with these human rights issues that they bring to my attention. But the same way is I could say about that entity too. Does it have a right to exist in another plane, in another vibration from another planet, contacting me to do this work here? Absolutely. Is it good or bad? Well, what do I do with it? The same way the incubus spirit that resides in me that I may occasionally summon for sex ritual, if I just used it just to please her and didn't do anything with that sexual energy that I summoned, then I'm just not using the resources for her or myself. That's just wasteful. So that, you see what I'm saying? It's like if everybody has a role, everybody has a purpose, be it not necessarily good or bad, but agreeable and disagreeable. If you're using all your resources in the right way, more of your pistons should be firing for all your engines for everybody around you. And if you're using everything the way it's supposed to be utilized, because it's utilizing me for some things, and I'm utilizing it for some things for those around me.
We call that being in harmony with the natural order of things. I think the more that you bring yourself in alignment, and this is what I mean about religion. And some of the religions, they don't understand the science behind their religion. When they say, "Well, you need to obey the will of Allah," and on a level, when I look at that from a universal standpoint, that is a correct statement. I think the problem gets in when they anthropomorphize Allah, and they kind of have this image in his mind of some man or something like that. When I hear that phrase, I'm thinking in terms of universal principles, the natural order of things, the laws that regulate everything in the universe. You have to obey them, and once you obey them, you empower yourself. Would you agree with that statement, that assessment?
I would, and sometimes there are also, depending upon your competence of understanding the natural laws, both of this realm and those above and below, there are rules that have to be abided by. There are certain rules that can be bent or curved.
Circumvented.
Circumvented Yeah, 'cause some of them you can get around, but some of them I actually mean bend it, like actually bend that rule to do something other than what it was originally intended, just a little bit to the side. And there's certain rules that if you understand certain higher rules, because there are different rule sets for different levels, there's certain higher rules you can bring down to break some of the lower rules.
I was about to say, we call that, in the Kabbalion, they call that using higher laws against lower laws. One way is to get over karma. There is a way to kind of sidestep karma in utilizing that principle that you just stated. Or at least, I don't think you can totally eliminate it, but I think you can put it off for a period of time.
There are ways that you can actually get rid of karma. They take a lot of discipline, and it takes a certain amount of time. And there are ways that you can still accrue karma. But a lot of people are so focused on, and should be, so focused on trying to appear as if they're doing the right thing, that they're not paying attention to actually doing the right thing. Because they're trying to create the pretense of, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then some people are just doing stuff because they just don't know. And they just look around and go, well, if this is what everybody's doing, this must be the right thing.
I'm going to do it. Right.
Right. And for the most part, that actually is it's the safest bet, because in a social entity like our people, our race, species, whatever you want to call it, because we are a collective and we operate as collectives, it's pretty fair to say if everybody's doing it, that is the behavior that's considered as accepted. Not realizing there's a higher rule where if you can direct the collective, then you can alter and shift what looks like to be the standard behavior, and you can put it into an abnormal state, and the abnormal state now becomes normal, and people will think what is abnormal actually should be the standard.
Which is what they are doing to us, the people on who are running everything.
Absolutely. And that's why they're having a problem right now, and that's why the United Nations is calling out the United States and the United States of America, because they're two different entities, as it relates to these human rights compliance issues relating to torture and racial discrimination and prejudice and, law enforcement and corruption and all this other stuff, because they just issued a report maybe a couple of weeks ago by the Torture Committee related to the Human Rights Commissioner, and he made a nice little 13, 14-page write-up. And it was pretty nasty how they pointed out to all the things that are actually discriminating against our people here. And they're like, dude, you party to this treaty, and you're also a founding member of the UN, and you're supposed to be obligated to follow these human rights. But it's just so ridiculous that you never really stopped slavery. You just abstracted it.
Yep. That's all they did. They just moved it. They never stopped slavery. And I'm telling you, man, that was a revelation that changed my life, because when you really, really understand that, what you just said, you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision where you're going to continue operating as a slave, or you're going to start making, and your life is going to dramatically change when you do that. But I have to give it to them, man. They are very good at what they do. The best kind of slave is a slave that does not know that they're a slave, and that's what they've done in the United States. These people don't know they're slaves, literally.
I know, and that includes Europeans. They are just now realizing that they were made slaves, and they're starting to realize it too, and now they're mad. And so I tell our people, let them fight each other. I know that may sound kind of jacked up, but when I tell people about, Israel and Palestine, and I tell them that's white folks shooting white folks, leave that fight alone, and they go, what do you mean? I say, well, go look at the racial hierarchy code. It will show you that Israelis and Palestinians are all classified under white. That's white people shooting white people. Let them brothers fight they shit out and leave them the hell alone. That fight has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you.
That's true. I played a clip the other night. We were listening to the confirmation hearing for Justice Sotomayor, and Orrin Hatch made a statement at the beginning. He was talking about, that basically these laws are all white. They're for white people. He called it an Anglo-Saxon regime. I forgot exactly how he phrased it. But, when you go and look at up everything that he said, this is all Europeans. We're talking about Europeans. This is their stuff.
When
I'm like, the man just said it on national television. I mean, y'all didn't catch that, what he just said?
when I went to the Indigenous Conference in May at the UN in New York, I actually had quite a few documents that I came back. And one of the documents was actually a write-up on Manifest Destiny. And I was like, yeah, I remember the Manifest Destiny from being in high school. And, white folks basically said that they were destined to find this shit and come over here and claim that because none of the indigenous or aboriginal people here were listed as any of the 12 tribes in the Bible, they were seeds of Satan, therefore there was no land on it, therefore this shit is theirs. Now, what the article actually went deeper into is it made this reference to the Romanus Pontifex. And it went deep into the Romanus Pontifex in like the middle section of the article, and basically this was a statement from the Pope directly to the monarchies of Europe, and it encouraged in writing to subdue, capture, and keep in perpetual slavery all non-European, non-Christian nations. Perpetual slavery, meaning don't kill them off. Just go in enough to terrorize them, scare the shit out of them, set up a system that can keep them giving us energy so that we can do what we need to do and not have to really do anything because they're doing it for us. And so whenever people talk about the system here in the United States, I'm like, well, you can talk about, all the different acts of the Pope and everything else, but the Romanus Pontifex, to me, encapsulates all of it globally. People don't realize that the Philippines is named after King Philip. There's a reason why they have Spanish names in the Philippines. I mean, they're not even paying attention to what it is that's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a friend of mine that calls himself Latino, and he was talking about how, black people don't have a language this and don't have a language that, and y'all got beat up and this and that and the other. And I just looked at him, and I just folded my arms, and I waited till he was done, and I was like, okay, so you call yourself Latino, right? He said, yep. I said, you call yourself Hispanic, right? I said, yeah. I said, there is no nation called Hispaniola, and you are a former colony of Spain, second. Third, the Spanish Constitution active current today gives you automatic dual citizenship as a former colony, sir. So you are just as much a victim of the pink penis as I am. Please stop deluding yourself. They're not even paying attention, bro. They are caught in the intermediate wave and think because they adopted it and that they've created some hybrid version of Spanish, true Spanish, because it's not, because you got a couple different versions. Those who speak Spanish in Mexico is not exactly the same as others, and then you got the other ones that speak Portuguese, like in Brazil, because it's the same thing. They're all operating off of the Romanus Pontifex. And if you actually talk to, like I did, some of the indigenous people at the forum, who first of all was questioning why I was there, like I was in the wrong room. Literally, I got said to my face, the transatlantic slave trade room is down the hallway. You in the wrong room.
Wow.
Right, and I was like, really? I said, oh, okay, so the fact that you've only been on the planet more than 35,000 years and there's human remains in America that have been at least here for 197,000 years, how can you call yourself as the First Nations and then get up on a microphone on international TV and say, your people have been here since all time? You weren't even on the planet more than 35,000 years ago, so I know you're a liar, sir. And then all of a sudden we had a real conversation because he knew who the fuck he was talking to.
Right. Let me, and they do know when you're saying that. But let me ask you a question. Do you think that the reason this is, because I sit back and I think about these things after I started getting into this and natural law and all this thing, I think that they have a right to rule because they have the knowledge of this esoteric knowledge and we don't. That's the only way they could rule is having this knowledge. This is another reason I do a natural law show, because I'm trying to get our mind. They put it on television in front of us. They put it in movies. They do they do all this stuff, and we kind of just take everything as for entertainment value. And I'm looking at this stuff. I'm like, wow, they putting this stuff out like in the open right now for people. What's that little show they got with them three white witches? What is it? Charmed. Yeah, Charmed, and they did Harry Potter, and they're doing all that. And I think people look at that and they think that is like, just something made up. and I don't think they're able to perceive all of the actual reality of what's being said to them. What do you think about that?
I think that there are those who are actually in power who are realizing, even in the midst of their expression of what they were learned and what they were given by us and others off planet, that they are actually incapable of holding this together anymore. They know it. The issue is our people aren't ready.
Exactly.
That's the scariest part, is the system does not allow waste. So I tell young brothers all the time when I do speeches, and I just got booked to be in Fayetteville in February to do a lecture to some boys, is I tell them either you can be productive outside the jail and be a taxpayer, or however you want to work your relationship with the IRS, or they can put you in jail and make money off you per seat. You know, like, what you mean?
That's what they do.
I was like, go to your state and look at the contracts that they have with the prison systems, and they actually have an occupancy rate requirement, meaning they have to keep a certain number of bodies in the jail by contract. That means if it gets low, police are going to go and find somebody to fill that seat.
It's 100% now, and I came to that same conclusion that they are locking up people. And this other guy just said this too, Dr. Claude Anderson. I got the audio. He said it. He said there's a direct relationship of people who don't have businesses and people going in jail, and that's what it is. I heard a white man say, a wealthy white man, he said, yeah, he said, the black people, he said, we turn the keys over to y'all right now. Y'all couldn't do nothing with it. And I'd be inclined to agree. I mean, like, okay, we talking all this stuff. You know, and we're trying to do business, and it's like people get mad at you for doing business. I'm like, we got to learn how to do business.
Dave Chappelle actually did a show about that when he said, you know, black folks finally got their reparations, and all the people in Congress was laughing because they were like, as soon as you give it to them, 72 hours later, we're going to give it all back. So we're going to buy everything and not use that money to create anything. And if we talk about the creative power, one of the best things we can do for our young people, which my daughter's working on right now, is she wants to create a T-shirt business. I was like, okay, that's what you want to do? All right, cool, I'll help you do it. So she's going through the process of figuring out how many T-shirts she needs, how much it costs to create the print, how she's going to set up her website, how she's going to collect payments, and she's actually doing that. My son wants to start his own business too, and I support him in that same endeavor because they're looking at me. Because I left corporate America in 2008 by force, and I had to figure out how am I going to be able to protect and provide for my family without working for corporate America. So that was,
and eventually, over time, you figured it out, didn't you?
Right. I did, because I had to out of necessity.
Hey, let me do this real quick. I found this. I was looking. I'm going to go back to this Immaculate Conception thing real quick, but this is not to engage and to make any controversy out of it, because I was looking at it at the beginning of the show. I put a link in the chat room for everybody, and it's the Matrix book. It's on page 166 if you got access to it. This is where they were doing the research on this virgin birth, and I'm going to read this to y'all, and it's very interesting. It's on page 166, and actually I think they're using the Fibonacci sequence. They talk about the male, female. Well, this is the B. Let me read it to you. I'm gonna read it to you. I'll read this to you. It's real short. It's not long. It says, the concept of immaculate conception is very misunderstood in today's society and is often clouded with religious mysticism. Ain't that the truth? It does not have to be a virgin birth at all, but refers to conception without actual physical contact. The American Medical Association has been doing research in this area. They have found that they can take a female egg and take a pointed object and pierce the zona pellucida, and mitosis will begin. Without the use of any sperm at all, a woman can have a baby. They have done this many times. The baby turns out to be an identical replica of the female, essentially a clone, and is always female. The female that results of this process is believed to be sterile, but it may be that she is sterile only in physical sense and not in the interdimensional sense. Virgin birth, as it were, happens all the time in nature. A female bee, for example, can't have a male bee any time. If she wants to have a female bee, she has to physically mate with the male. and look at the family tree backward of this male bee that was born from immaculate conception, an interesting thing appears. And then they have a sequence. And it goes on, it says, they got, actually it's the Fibonacci sequence. When we get into sacred geometry, I don't know if you're familiar with that, it talks about, it gets into this discussion with this. And it goes on, it says, and the Fibonacci sequence is also utilized in government with the GSA bonds and a lot of things like that. Gene Keating was breaking this down, how they do the laws and everything. I got to go back and revisit that as well. I'm kind of doing some research into this. But following the cycle backwards, it goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc., which is a Fibonacci sequence. Immaculate conception is based on Fibonacci sequence. If physical mating occurs, it proceeds according to a binary sequence. All sorts of things do this in nature. There are male and female papaya trees as well as bisexual papaya trees. There are over 2,000 cases documented by the American Medical Association of women who gave birth who have had absolutely have not been with a man. If you have a physical mating between two humans and have a binary sequence birth, the process of gestation is 9 months long. The gestation process for an immaculate conception at birth is about 10.5 months. So if a woman doesn't have a man, it takes a little longer. At this moment, the American Medical Association is finding, as of 1991, that there are a whole lot of babies being born in the United States whose gestation period is 10.5 months. This is also apparently happening in other countries. Now, this might also give a spin on why these women, you are not the baby things that happen on Maury Povich. But anyway, according to old medical texts, around the turn of the century, doctors believed that there was an undetected gland that was connected to the female uterus that excreted a particular kind of acid that caused this process, but such a gland has never been found. Now, it says a cross-study of natural virgin births. Her name is Ann E. Biddlecombe. She's an M.A. and Lori D. DeRosa, Population Studies and Training Center, Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island. And then they give all their data on this particular virgin birth or women being able to have babies without a man. And you can I gave y'all the link. It is in PDF form. It's in the Matrix book. Matrix book is a very, very good book put out by Val Valerian. This book was put out in in the 1990s. But you'll find it on page 166. You'll find the article. So don't y'all say I ain't never gave y'all nothing.
and that was the reason I made the statement earlier, and I'll kind of give you this too. There's an African frog that if there are no males present and the water level gets low because frogs need water, the females excrete a chemical that will turn a small portion of the female frogs into males so they can reproduce.
Interesting. And that's true.
So that's why I said in the mammal world there has to be two sexes, but outside of the mammal world, and even including what we just talked about, which is parthenogenesis, in the animal world outside of mammals, there are known instances that they use it as a survival mechanism. And I had a conversation with a sister one time because we were talking about pornography, and I said, okay, if you look at the overall birth rate in Europe, Europeans are actually having a problem reproducing. There are males being born without a penis, incompletely closed penis and no testicles, and all the other types of weird anomalies. There's a reason not only that they have birthing clinics in European neighborhoods and not in ours, but also I've expressed to her that pornography for Europeans is a genetic, this is just my personal belief, it's a genetic sociological response to breed with that female.
Right.
They're seeking to be mounted and bred with, and so that's why they always got their legs open on the thing. That's what they do because they're actually having a problem breeding. And I'll give you a case in point. A European female who has 5 children is lauded and praised as a super breeder. Our women can have 5 kids, and we're like, you having too many babies. Mostly because our financial structure is not able to support the child.
Yeah, back in the day we had 10, 12, 15 back in the day.
Right. Right, but that's also in the day when we had our own farms, we had our own businesses, and we were able to take care of the children. So a lot of our people are misled as to the purposes of pornography from a European perspective, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and those of us who really look at it objectively from a societal standpoint, it is something totally, totally different. Totally different. It's the same way when Europeans talked about Christianity. They had no problems of putting a church right above the slaveholding pen. And the men would go downstairs, and they would rape the women and the men, and they would go right upstairs and praise Jesus. They had no problem with that. These same Europeans will have no problems going to church and will take their children the same weekend to go see Harry Potter. And they have no problem with watching movies about magic and watching movies about these extraordinary instances. They have no problems with it, and then going to church. Our people have a problem with embracing magic and the spiritual realm. We can talk about it, but when it comes to actually using it, we get skittish and scared.
Because we don't look at it as a science, brother. They look at it as it's been given some sort of label that makes it evil. It's been relegated to a evil classification. That's number one. And we don't look at it as a science until it's approached as science. That not, just like a television. If you take, I always give this example. If you take somebody 200 years from now and put them in front of a flat screen TV, you are engaged in witchcraft.
Right.
That's mad. How did you get those souls in that television box?
Absolutely. And even the imagery of the jackal as the beast or evil one, not realizing that a jackal doesn't, just like a raccoon, a jackal has to bury its prey in order for it to partially decompose for it to feed, meaning the jackal is the devourer of the devourer. People don't think about it that way.
That's some very interesting information, brother. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So if I have to be the devourer of the devourer, so be it. I don't have a problem with that.
All right. Hey, bro, I got a lot of people on the line. I'm going to leave your mic open. Do you want to put a plug for yourself, brother? I don't know if you want people to know who you are or not, but I know you said you're going to do something down in Savannah. What do you say you're going down in? I know you're out. What, you in Georgia?
I'm actually south of Chicago. My name is Nasir Ali. My website is paleo-american.com. I'm a human rights defender, and I do exist to help the people. Please, brother, continue with the show. I'm going to step out of the way and go have my seat. I thank you for engaging me, brother. I love the show.
Hey, excellent. Hey, man, thank you for coming on the show. I love your energy. You're very knowledgeable. I applaud you on your knowledge. Hey, man, and you're welcome to come back anytime. I'm going to leave your mic open. If you want to mute yourself, you can. I ain't going to mute you out. If you want to jump back in, you can at any time, okay? Let me. I just got a lot of people with their hands up. Let me see what we got right here. Let me go down here to 608-2639. You're on High Frequency Radio. You have a question?
Hey, Yusef. Yeah,
what's going on?
Not much. I am actually really curious about this, everything that you've been talking about, you know, the occult, the unseen world, and all that, and I'm just getting into it. I don't claim to know anything super big, but I do have a question. I'm white in the Matrix, okay? So He was talking about how Europeans were slaves too, and I don't want to take away from Jonah at all, but he was explaining something about quadroons and octoroons and stuff like that. What I'm wondering is, where can I go to read all of this type of stuff? I can't find it anywhere, you know?
Well,
I got the brother still online. Do you want to address that, brother, or I'll
sure.
All right, go ahead.
Actually, there's a postface in my book that I wrote about Paleo-Americans that I actually talked about European slavery, and there was an edict passed in London that all loiterers had to be caught up and sent to hard labor overseas in European colonies. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, where did that come from? And actually, there is. They took it down, but London used to have an online source that they kept the logs of their ship holders. And there was one particular log that I actually confirmed myself. I went and looked it up. I don't know if it's still there or not. But it actually cited that in the islands, which is down by Jamaica and, the Barbados Islands, there was a census taken of the slaves. And of the 25,000 slaves that were there, only 5% were black or African. So there's a huge, huge misinterpretation or misreporting of the actual process of slavery as it began. And there's also the sister of one of the governors of the original 13 colonies. And her, I believe it was either her brother or her mate, her husband, made a statement that if Europeans in the 13 colonies want to succeed in business, they actually have to go through the process of securing white labor in order to be successful. So yes, there's a huge disparity in what it actually is reported in the history books as it relates to European slavery, because that was something that once they realized they were enslaving their own, they ran up against an ethical dilemma compared to slavery of others. That's why I kind of go back to the Romanus Pontifex.
Dang, okay. So what was your website again?
Paleo-American.com.
Okay, sweet.
Paleo-American.com.
Yep. All right, I got it. Okay, and then, dang, I guess I'm just struggling here because, you know, I'm here in the United States or in America, and I don't know, my family is completely blind. And Yusef, yesterday, or I don't know, whenever you were talking about how your family is supposed to be your business, well, my family is completely blind to everything that's going on here. They don't see that they're slaves, just like you guys were saying. So I guess I'm asking for some advice on maybe what I should do, what I could do, you know, to help them, or what can I do?
Let me take a jab at that. When I say your family is your business, I'm an older man. You got to understand, I'm 46, so I'm thinking in terms of my children, my wife, things that I have control over. I don't have control. You know what I'm saying? You don't have control over your mother, your father. Yeah. I don't have control over my mother, anything like that. When I say your family is your business, I'm saying we're supposed to be engendering in our children this idea that that when they go off to college, if you're going to send them off to college or something like that, it should be for the family. The family comes first. When you look at all powerful people, that's how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
All of them operate. Everything is through their family. Their family is first. We've been giving this idea in our mind that our family is not that important. We just kind of got to grow up, graduate out of college. I know a wealthy gentleman. He has. I'm talking about rich. He has all his kids. He built them all houses. They all live on the same street. All of them have nice houses, but they're all like in the same neighborhood. You know, they come up and eat together and everything. They got all their husbands and everything, but it's like they all in the same general area. And we move across country. We try to get away from our family and do all of this kind of stuff. And it's like I don't think that's the right attitude to have. When I say, why would you go out and get a job at a corporation when the people who started that corporation, first of all, that was their dream, and you're helping them build that dream? And helping them build and provide for their family first and foremost. I feel like the first thing should be you and yours. And that's what I meant when I say your family is your business. But trust me, we all deal with that situation. Hell, I deal with that situation. My family look at me, they think I'm a damn fool. They might be listening now and say, he on the air talking to some witch right now, mama. You know, they not understand what's going on. Totally oblivious to what is going on. So, you know, I don't worry about that. I only worry about what I can control, you know.
Okay.
But go ahead. My guest he might want to chime in on that too.
Well, I'll say this. I have learned to be much more careful in waking people up, and I give the analogy of a sleepwalker. It's very dangerous to awake a sleepwalker. Some people are more dangerous awake than they are asleep. And there are certain people who, when I have my lectures, and I even talk about the Paleo-Americans as a Negro people that were here before American Indians, well over 100,000 years before that, but that's not what's taught in school. I actually had a woman who brought my book back and did not want her money back because she said, now I'm confused and I don't know what to call myself because I refuted the presumed fact that Negro people got here on a slave ship with facts that could be proven by science, and these people existed here before the American Indians as well and alongside them. At that point, now she had to make a choice of how she wants to self-identify, and it threw her internal perspective on life up on its edge and out of kilter so much that her confusion was overwhelming and she just shut down. So be very sensitive to the fact that the best thing for you to do is live your life the best way you can and then watch your example. If they start asking you, give them small pieces. Don't try to overwhelm them because all you're going to do is evoke what I call cognitive dissonance. And that is a well-known studied area of psychology where when someone is presented with two conflicting facts, they can have one of two responses. They will either change their behavior, which is desired, or they will justify to continue doing what they're doing. And the second one is usually what most people have to respond to. You are obviously in the first category because you're trying to work to change your behavior and those around you, but you find others, when you start having conversations with them, they will come up with every reason possible why what you're saying is inaccurate, not true, and it doesn't represent reality.
Totally. So I guess where I'm at is I'm at the same place where you were telling me about that sister. I'm at the point where I'm seeing all this conflicting information and I don't know exactly where to go with it. I mean, I have an idea of where I want to go. I'm getting into, like you guys were talking about, the magic and the occult, the unseen world. Like, I got some crystals, so I'm into this stuff, and I'm meditating and all of that. But I just don't know where to go with the whole nationality slavery thing. There is no like one source. I'm having trouble finding one source where I can get like a full rundown of everything that happened, went on, or whatever. And I guess it's meant to be like that.
You're probably not going to have one source. I mean, I don't think. Yeah, you got to do research. That's what research means. You got to go to various sources. I don't think research means you have to go to various sources. I don't think there's one source you can get. I don't think I've ever had one source I can just go to and get everything I need. I don't know. Maybe somebody has, but I don't think I've ever experienced that.
You're right. Okay. Hey, thanks for the information. And where did your guest say that he was located? He said he was in Chicago?
Yes.
Dang, that's close to me. I'm actually in Wisconsin. So, you said you do like presentations and whatnot?
Yes, I do. I do lectures on Paleo-Americans, and I also do lectures on human rights.
So, is that all on your website?
Yes, there's a space on the website. If you want to book a lecture, there's a space you can contact me, and we can make arrangements for everything. Absolutely, yes.
All right, sweet. I'll probably be in touch with you. Thank you. Thank you for all the information, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. All right, let's go back to, I think this is my damn co-host in here. Paul, is that you?
Good day.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Excellent show, excellent guest, excellent information. I'm just soaking it in, man. I'm loving his response because most people think it's going to be some little thing they can do other than correct themselves. And when they correct themselves, people will be interested. Other than that, like your guest said, they're going to shut down. They can't handle it. So I'm just soaking it in. Great show.
It is. Let me pull in another caller real quick. Let me dip down to 225-6418. You're on High Frequency Radio. A question or comment?
Hi. A question. You guys were talking about entities, and when I was younger, as maybe a child, I never knew what that was called until I, got grown about the succubus entity, but I experienced that as a child. But what happened?
But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean,
what happened as adult just a few years ago? It was like really strange. I wasn't asleep. I was just sitting in my room, and I saw an entity. I seen it so fast, it didn't really scare me, but it was like half human and half reptilian. After that, I just started, kind of hearing a word, the word Leviathan, and I didn't know what it was, so I, looked on the internet, did a little research and stuff, and I seen, the things it was saying about it, that it was this strong beast, and, you're not supposed to try to go up against it. So after that, I kind of fell off and went to sleep. When I went to sleep, I dreamed that I was, like, fighting with it. And when I woke up, both of my eyes were swollen. My eyes were swollen. I ended up having to go to the hospital, and one of my eyes stayed swollen for maybe almost 2 months. And ever since then, my vision in that eye, it just is not good at all. So I always, kind of wonder, what happened. It was just a real weird experience that I had. I don't know if you could tell me anything about it.
Mr. Ali, I'm gonna let you field that. Go ahead. That sounds like it might be in your area.
Well, the incubus, which is the male version of the succubus, or incubi plural,
right?
They can and do visit people. Sometimes they are sent to you. Sometimes you may emit an energy or vibration signature that they think you are vulnerable or open to that energy as well. The best thing that I would probably want to say about it is they do have the ability to physically interact with you. They do. They are very real. If you had that entity visiting you, I would probably recommend you doing a lot of spiritual work on cleansing your field and making sure that you don't suppress your sexuality, because it's just going to bubble up in a weird way in another area that's going to create another dysfunction. You probably have to be much more in tune with your sexuality so that you can be sensitive to, let me see, how can I say this? You have to be sensitive to how it's being expressed. And that's one of the things that our sisters also have a problem with as well, because our sisters are suppressing their sexuality first. Second, a lot of our women are not having orgasms, which means they're not as powerful as they actually could be. You have a lot of brothers who are not telling other brothers how to properly, and I'm going to use this term objectively, it's an unemotional statement, not how to properly service the women in the bedroom. So you got a lot of women, I'm going to just be real crass about this, a woman that's not having orgasms can be grumpy because she's not getting that chemical that she needs from the orgasm, nor is she spiritually getting fed from that either. And the brothers who are aware and who do know how to have a woman orgasm and know how to do that repeatedly are not talking to the other brothers to explain to them how to do this. So when these entities like incubi can come to you and they can evoke that type of spiritual energy in you, your body will respond because it's depleted. And they sense that lack, and they can step in because of their weakness, and they can interact with you spiritually while you're sleeping.
Would you call that?
Well, that happened when I was. That kind of happened when I was like real young, a little girl. When I used to kind of experience that like sexual type of feeling, like I had been violated. But the other one, it was something more recently.
And you said it was, well, what was interesting to me, you said it was half reptilian. And there are reptilian entities. I mean, first of all, the universe is filled with life and different type of entities. And the reptilian entities are very, very prevalent here in the physical form as well in coming from interdimensionally as well. So I really couldn't say what you saw or why something appeared to you. I'm not that adept where I could really just, just over there go in on something like that. But I can tell you that don't be so quick to relegate something to your imagination. It could possibly be, something that was real. There are entities that are here. And not all of them are evil. And, what I'm saying? So everybody says, well, that was an evil creature or something like that. It's like they have agreeables and disagreeables just like we do within our nature. So that's all I can really possibly probably tell you about that as far as dealing with. I think you have about 72 different species of reptilian that are present here on Earth. Let's go to that number 72 again. I just said 72. So I'm really not sure. You could get, I'm going to tell you, it's a real interesting document called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, where Tahuti actually gives a warning about these reptilian-type entities and talks about their ability to shapeshift, that they can shapeshift. And there's a lot of documented footage on YouTube. I'll give you all an example of one. There's a news reporter, and y'all can tell me whether y'all think this is this just some type of camera trick or is this something that they're catching on footage? There's some real stuff that they catch on footage. And there are a lot of news reporters, and you're not paying attention. Tobey Maguire is one. There's a lot of Hollywood actors who are reptilian. And the way that you're going to see it is you're going to see it in their eyes. Their eyes will shift to the reptilian look, how the cover comes over the eye of a frog. Their eyes will do the same thing. But it happens so fast that you may not notice it, or most of you are not paying attention to it. Once it's been brought to your attention and you see it, then you'll begin to notice it. But most of y'all don't pay attention to it. You're not seeing it. So let me see if I can pull this up. They have the ability, and I'm going to put it in the chat room, and then you can kind of, y'all can kind of like, y'all can go and watch it yourself. And they're actually changing while they're giving a report. And you can see everybody go crazy in the newsroom and then try to play it off. Wow, I can't, what happened? But they caught all this on tape, and they're counting on y'all not believing this stuff. And I'm going to put this in the chat room. Here's a link in the chat room. I'm going to give y'all, for y'all who are just listening on the phone, you have access to the chat room. I'm going to give you the name of it. It is called Shapeshifting, the title of it is Shapeshifting News Reporter / Producer, Screaming in Ear, You Decide. Now, there are a number of these. This is why I say that y'all are being given all information, because I can do a whole show devoted to actual footage that is being caught, that people can say, okay, well, that's I don't believe that, but you'll look at it like, man, it's something I can't see how that's been faked or anything like that. But it's for you to decide. It's for you to decide. And you can catch this footage, and I just put that in the chat room. There are a couple of news reporters. There's another news reporter. He kind of stepped off of camera where he was giving a news report. I think it was over in Iraq or something like that. And he started losing. Every now and then they'll lose it. Now, you'll see in these books, in these Matrix books, that they discuss that they need blood in order to come over here into this realm. Maybe Mr. Ali can talk about that, because Tahuti actually talked about that as well, and also to maintain their appearance. I told y'all yesterday that go and look up an interview with a woman named Arizona Wilder. It is on YouTube. Listen to this woman carefully. Listen to what she's talking about very carefully. I've kind of relegated it to something crazy at one point, until I met this guy in jail who he was talking about child sacrifices. And these were black people doing this in the Atlanta area. And he was talking about, he said, look, they're taking newborn babies and sacrificing them. And this guy has a hold. He has like a little group of women that all belong. He got all their mind in check, and he gets them impregnated, and they give the baby up to this guy. Now, he was so serious about this that he was writing letters to the judge, telling the judge this. Actually got the letter. He couldn't write worth anything, and I tried to help him correct it so he wouldn't look so crazy to the judge. Well, I thought it was crazy until I picked up a book, and I forgot the name of the book, y'all. I'm sorry. I'll try to memorize the book. It was some years ago, that actually described the same thing that this man was talking about that is going on out here with these sacrifices that are being conducted. You heard Rabbi Finkelstein. He basically publicly admitted that there's 300,000 children that disappear every year, and we are taking them and drinking their blood and sacrificing them and doing all this stuff, to them. He said this. He made a statement. And they take the bodies and chop them up and put them in fat and move the bodies through fast food restaurants. I thought that was crazy until I got a book called My Irrelevant Defense. That's the name of the book, where a guy did research all the way back to 1100. And he said that Ferdinand and Isabel kicked the Jews out of Spain because that is what they were doing. That's why they couldn't find a home, because they're involved in child sacrifices, and he has documented court cases going all the way back hundreds of years, talking about what these people are doing. And the way that I found that out is that Rabbi Finkelstein said it. He didn't get the name of it. He said, we had somebody come out in the 30s and try to tell y'all about this. I didn't just listen to it. I went and start digging, and I found the book. And the name of the book is called My Irrelevant Defense. And it's called My Irrelevant Defense because they arrested him for trying to warn the public. He was arrested for alerting the public. You're saying that he's like inciting a riot by giving out this information, and all the information, all the proof and evidence that he provided in court was irrelevant. That's why the name of the book is My Irrelevant Defense. And they do that today. They do that today with a lot of different things. So I hope I didn't digress too much. But I was just kind of trying to give you a little insight into some things and probably give you some direction on where you can start doing research on subjects like that, so you can kind of say, okay, well, I see this is and let me give y'all My Irrelevant Defense. The name of the author, his name is Arnold Leese, S. Leese, Leese. Arnold, first name Arnold. Mr. Ali, you definitely want to read this. I think this would be right up your alley, because he got all the information talking about this stuff. And it came out in the 1930s. FYI. Let me move on to another caller. Thank you, sister. You in Louisiana, thank you. I hope that helped a little bit.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, let me bring in, who I got? Somebody trying to get in. All right, let me bring in Virginia real quick. Virginia, you're on the air.
Peace, Rahubat.
Rahubat, what's going on?
Yeah, man. I have to listen from the beginning of the show. You all are hit on so many vital topics. It's almost impossible. You know what I'm saying? At this point, want to also acknowledge the brother that came on too. You know what I'm saying? Definitely a great mind in order to build. You all have started out dealing with the polarity and the part of the gender, and right. That was early in the conversation. And I'm glad that you all got to a point of letting each other go, clear in. And when you was going in on that, I wanted to bring up a book that was very vital. I'm a Nubian too, but it was a book that I came across in the research when we was told to go check things out, called The Great Cosmic Mother. And I don't know if either one of you all have read that book. So when he was expressing, when he had made a statement about a certain amount of years before someone came on the planet and so forth, if people will research that book, The Great Cosmic Mother, they start going into that, and they also explain in conjunction the Sumerian doctrine being tied in to coming into play during the patriarchal time period versus the matriarchal Hathor, hippopotamus, Kemetic or Tamaran time period, you know what I'm saying, dealing with the mitochondrial DNA. So it was, you know, they were basically going into that. And, you know, I wanted to get into some happy conversation with you and still with the brother in the audience on. Now, with a lot of times when we are studying data, as far as like Anu and the Anunnaki or the Naturu and so forth, one part that we people don't start discussing outside of that or in addition to that, and I'm gonna make a reference to this. When you speak of because it goes back into like the Bible religion and the Jesus and all the things where people keep thinking that there's a omnipresent, omnipotent force that is particularly dealing strictly with this planet and what goes on here. Then when you start expanding your knowledge and your insight on things, you know, you have to start asking yourself, okay, things that are on entities that are on higher vibrations, what keeps making people think that entities on a higher vibration do not have a duty? And I think you and the brother was mentioning this earlier too, with their manifestation. You know, with things that come into play in manifestation, whether it was Anu and Ki and Lil or so forth, what keeps making people think that it is only destined and they have this particular attribute because we are standing upright or supposedly had DNA intervention? Why do we limit our perception of thinking, okay, there's some entities that come back and supposed to keep teaching us and so forth? Like we don't understand that there is a time period of manifestation in the flesh or on a certain vibration, and then things do change energy forces. And people never have that discussion. People never discuss whether or not, okay, they're going on to another solar system, or whether or not your DNA advancement was based off of a biological reaction that the planet naturally goes through, and that you're at a particular stage that you are now because of that advancement. That was one of the thoughts that had came to me when you mentioned at the beginning of the show, and then last I yield the floor on when you were talking about the Book of Tahuti and the principles. All right, this is very important because I hate to say it, and I don't want it to be taken in a derogatory manner. We do not have what's called a black people. We have melanated individuals. When you all are going in on systems and things that are put in place, those things are put in place by a people that have what's called a unified mind. If anybody studies the Black Root Science, it's dealing with a unified mind. We are within a matrix or a construct of another's unified mind until all of the people like the brother that's on, yourself, until we find some type of forum, whether it's underground or public, you know, and definitely we're supposed to do a lot of things private, but until we have a forum to where there's people of like mind to be able to replicate a system and a program that's based off of our biological altitude, this is going to be perpetual. I mean, It doesn't matter how many Dr. Yorks or Noble Drew Ali's or Elijah Muhammad's or the dude with the boat from Jamaica, I can't think of his name right now. But it doesn't matter how many individual avatars come. We have been shown that it's about the system. It's no different than your biological system. It's no different that was put in place and that is perpetual. It's no different than an involuntary system or your respiratory system or certain things. Unless we are dealing with the implementation of a system and have a unified mind towards things, there is almost irrelevant, because if we can't get those two binary figures of male-female aspects to be dealing with the first principle of the mind and the vibration and the duality and the polarity, if you can't get that into a system to where people is applying it, then individuals talking about it or whatever, it's not going to do anything, because we can't pass it on. We already know about Black Wall Street. We already had certain things that were systems that was not passed on. And that is our problem, is that we're dealing with a system that a group of people took and are implementing, that they was able, whether rob, steal, kill, or by the means of necessity, they continue to perpetuate it through thousands of years, versus people that do not have a system. The reason why they cannot invade or beat China or somebody like
they got systems.
They have a system.
Isn't that the purpose of a culture? Isn't that the purpose of a culture, the implementation of a system that is in harmony with nature? That's how I look at it. It's like if you got a culture honors nature, because all law has to be a derivative of something that is natural. So your lifestyle or your habits or your traditions all revolve around, in some shape, form, or fashion, honoring nature. And with nature, with respect of how we've been constituted, because black people and white people aren't constituted the same way, as much as we like us to think. So I think the root of the problem, I understand exactly what you're saying, brother, but isn't the root of the problem, let me ask you a question, don't our people love the devil because he gives them nothing? Don't they love that system?
Yes, they love it also,
they like that
because
fake hair. They like all that, them Jordan shoes and them rims and food that's killing you and all this. They love that, don't they?
Well, it's because we are not in the stage of manufacturing. When we was at a stage of separate, what do they call it? I don't know, segregation. That's what it was called. I talk with this about elders. Talk to elders about this all the time.
Right.
Your public community or your boule house niggas made a contract and made it popular to emphasize to the masses of joining, when they wanted to portray that you had a lack of when you had a majority of. When you had to, I talked to my grandmother. She's 70 or 80. She said that they had to make everything, brother. That means that you had to know the knowledge of hemp. You had to know the knowledge of sewing. You had to know the knowledge of everything, metal, everything that you needed for existence. You had to have the knowledge of it. When you just said they like the Jordan and they like this, that's because right now they ain't got to do nothing to get it. Lazy. Because so in the midst of doing that, you deny the higher principles of mentality or the higher faculties of vibration, because you're in an integrated society that doesn't force you to use your faculties.
That's right.
I mean, I hate to preach to the choir because I know that you all know this. You know what I'm saying? I'm a solutionist. I'm an inventor myself, and it's the whole thing is that it just I don't even know where to go, or you know what I'm saying, or even
you're stating it very eloquently, and you're right on point. What you're saying is we have a lack of will. At the root of it is we haven't mustered or marshaled up enough willpower to start to do things for ourselves. And I'll tell you another thing. We haven't been taught the mechanics of thought either. We don't know the mechanics of the mind. All right? We don't know how the brain learns. You know, like I can take a student that's failing, and in 1 day, 1 or 2 days, get him prepared to make an A the next day in class. because I know how to give to repeat the information to him, drill him. You know, we certain things we just haven't been taught. That's the dumbing down process. The dumbing down process is to keep information away from you, keep certain processes away from you that are beneficial, and give you other processes that keep you in a perpetual state of being lethargic, apathetic, and just like you said, just downright lazy.
Hey, look. I gotta mention this too, because with coming through a Nubian background, I do have to emphasize this. And what we was taught is something that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge. We was taught etymology and language and vibrations as far as being a Nubian. A lot of people want to base this off of other crap. I don't know what other stuff that people want to do, but I try to emphasize to people is that our root foundation that was given to us by a master teacher was about etymology, language, and vibrations and tone. And when we get away from that, because like the brother was saying, which, right? Now, me and you might not have no twitch towards that because we know Wicca. We know the etymology and the root of that. And when y'all was mentioning earlier about fear of our people going into something, that's because they're trapped in a language. They're trapped in a language, and if you do not know the phonetics and the vibrational cause of tones, you know what I'm saying, then you cannot even shake the foundation of your learning. You know what I'm saying? Because we're in a system to where people keep saying that this is a language and it's not. This is a compound. We know that the word thought comes from thought. You know what I'm saying? We know that hero a hero comes from Heru and things in that manner. But and we know. But there's if people were studying etymology and they had their thesaurus and their etymology, then you could be able to deal with the 9 principles of things. But because there's a blockage when we're not in a self-educating mode in order to expand our minds. When you're looking at communicating, like you said, with a child, right? When we're communicating with children, they don't have. We are implementing these things into their DNA and into their biosystem in order for them to process these things. So whatever they get, it's the first time that they get it, right? Now, if we have a massive amount of a generation that wakes up when they're 30, like a lot of our generation, like the brother speaking of magic, this is something that if we were still in our original culture, as you were saying, these are things that were supposed to have been groomed to us up to the age of 12 and 13 of our rites of passage. You know what I'm saying? But we're dealing with this in our 30s because of the institution. And the whole thing for the people that's listening is that, listen, when you said about will, people, you all got to do it. There's no more saviors that's coming to do it for you. You have to do it. You have to implement the initiative of what he called magic, which is magnetism, which is magnificent, magnetic, magnifying. You have to institute this into your children's lifestyle so that those children and our children, like you all said, you all have children, how are we expecting them to be able to deal with creativity if the people that are considered adults now are still mental minors, don't want to learn the law until Eric Garner gets killed or the young boy gets killed? We've been teaching this for how many years? But ain't nobody got time for it until somebody gets killed, or we can't use the different aspects of dealing with our psychometry or our telepathy because, again, we want to deal with instant gratification instead of getting into groups during our off time, which should be our on time from the plantation People keep saying, oh, I got to work, but then when they're not at work, they don't want to do what it takes in order to raise their people. You got to have a reverse mentality. That time is for that matrix and the program, but when you get home, that's when you're really supposed to put in the work.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. But once again, you're talking. Basically, what you're saying, we need to unify, and we need to pull ourselves away from these televisions. All these things that waste your time. All these things just wasting your time. People need to prioritize their life in a certain kind of way, and they need to sit back and really do a self-analysis and think, is this what? You know what? I'm gonna tell you this. What you're saying is correct. But the reason me and you think the way that we do, because we understand that we're here for spiritual development. You know, we understand the urgency of that. And we also understand the methodology, that there is a methodology behind that. But you got a group of people, they don't understand the urgency of it, and they don't even know that there is a methodology that is associated with it because they've been given religion. They just think that, hey, you know, Jesus died for my sins, and everything's going to be okay. That's just how I think about it. You know, there is no accountability to themselves or to anyone else. Just my feelings on it. I don't know. Hello, everybody got quiet. Oh, he dropped off. Oh, he got dropped off. That's why. Like, what happened to my caller? Got dropped off. Oh, I guess he'll call back in. What happened? Let me pull him back on. I hope you don't think I hung him up. I didn't hang him up, y'all. I was like, oh, I guess my brother got hung up. Let me go back to the phone lines real quick, then. Let me pull another call. Let me go to Dip to Dallas real quick. 972-2558. You're on High Frequency Radio. Got a question or comment?
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Yusuf. Brother, man, I really appreciate you and this show, man, because this is soaring on high. It's wonderful when we can take all our lessons that we're learning from this elite class of law and even use it in this subject. And you were on the point. You were on point. When you started with immaculate birth, you were on point when you dealt with positive and negative and the polarities. And even though the information, I've heard this before too, women having babies and having their children without the assets or the use of a man, and I can hear that. I say, okay, that's cool, but you didn't have that breast and that butt that you got, and it probably didn't happen on this planet, probably on another planet, because that breast and that bust and all that figure you got is to attract a man. She was more likely like like you see animals, you don't know a female dog from a male dog until she's showing some type of she's nursing some puppies or she's in heat. But however, you was on a good ground when you said the polarities, because even though those fish or that element is producing its own, they still have to deal with water, which they need, and need the food, they need the air, which is...
Yeah, there's still some type of active masculine principle that has to be present to invoke or initiate the process.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's correct. That's the law. That's the law. Sorry, but that's just the law. They're not on an all feminine element planet or existence. They're using that masculine and that negative and positive law to produce that themselves like they do. And you're right that no woman who's having birth of herself cannot produce that X. You need that X chromosome. And I just take this, big brother, I take this as a sign, not of some maximum. I really look at it that anytime you got an element that cannot produce the total sum of itself, both the total sum of itself, male and female, you looking at a element, I would think an element or something that is dependent. It's dependent, is second in class. I won't use second in class. It's like you got dominant, you got recessive. It's a recessive type of entity. But if you got an entity that can produce both total sum of itself, you're dealing with a dominant or a independent entity. Do you kind of see that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But, this is what I always do. I always stick to this. I always go to the principles. everything has an active and passive or masculine and feminine aspect associated with it. And it's the understanding. The problem with most people is they immediately, their mind, because of habitual thought processes, it automatically reverts to penises and vaginas. As soon as they hear that word masculine and feminine or male and female, they think about breasts, butts, vaginas, penises, things like that. Those are the images that flash in their mind. And that's not what's being stated. It's talking about an actual process or reciprocal actions of universal forces that interact with each other to create something or produce something. It's the creation process. The creation process is a twofold process. So when somebody says something to me, that's how my mind operates. My mind operates, I've been trained so thoroughly to think about something. When somebody says something to me, I'm like, well, the law says this. No, you know what I'm saying? Now, how you going to make that fit into the law? That's how I'm looking at it, because it got to fit into the law some kind of way.
Right.
And that's how
it doesn't exist. And both of you agree that the maximum of the law is self-preservation first.
He's right.
With that, right. So if something cannot reproduce itself, reproduce both total sum of itself, which is male and female, negative and positive, conscious, unconscious, then that is really, again, I go back to saying that that's a dependent type of entity, and if you talked to me, you said something the other day we were talking, and you talked about the immaculate birth coming from, as far as Christianity, coming from Egypt. And I'm not very depth inside of the Egyptian philosophy.
Well, those same stories are present in Egypt. That's
right, but if they roll it down to, I think her name was Annette or something like that. I don't remember.
Set.
I pulled it up.
Set. You have Asar, and Asar was killed by Set, and Asar had a birth without a Set. A Set had a birth without Asar.
Right. And when I looked, and when I looked down into the final of that story, they said that she got the body, she brought the body back to Egypt and everything, right. And she put it in some tomb, and she used her magic or her science to transform herself into a dove, and the dove represents spirit. And she drew out. She took her whatever she did. She drew out of a life source out of her lover's body. That's just what you guys was talking about, using science, going into the woman's womb and inserting the sperm there without the use of a man. I think that's what they're saying. But it still tell you that she, in order for her to have an immaculate birth, that was a man that she used the essence of a man to have that child, Horus. So that kind of eliminates that. Yes, sir.
I agree with you 100%. When you look at man, let me tell you, when you start studying the Egyptians, you have to, the first thing that, and I blame the Europeans on this, because they put everybody in the frame of mind of religion and paganism. And they say, this is paganism, this is religion, when it's symbolic. And what they were doing, they used birds and animals and things there as representations of certain principles that exist in nature. Because animals do what they are naturally inclined to do. So they make very good representations. And that's what's happening. We take things, what I'm trying to say is sometimes we take things that is being given to us by ancestors literal when it's really instructional. It's instructional in a sense that if we're able to decipher the esoteric meaning that lies behind it, we'll find a principle that is available to us. That's only available to those who are worthy of having the information. This is why you have initiations. You have an initiation. They got a book called Initiation into Hermetics. Hermes is the Greek rendition of Tahuti or Thoth. And because this is where the Greeks got all their stuff from. They got it from Egypt, got everything from Egypt. And this is what this was all about. It was like, you do not cast your pearls before swine. So you have to give things in the public in the form of a parable. And then the esoteric meaning that lies behind it will be available to the student that is deemed worthy of having it.
Right. Two more points I want to point out is that when I don't call it witchcraft. When I was young, I learned the skill of it's called manipulating, and I don't really go into it anymore because I saw the danger of doing that, and I know even that you have laws. You got to get permission before you start manipulating people. You can manipulate things so long as it's not attached to an individual, because then you have to manipulate that person to let that thing go in order to get that thing. So I won't delve into that, because I'm kind of like past that. I do use it sometime, but not only with understanding that there are laws that I have to get permission first, dealing with the ancestors and things. All the angels.
You're not supposed to violate anybody else's will.
Right.
There are consequences for that. Yes, there is.
Right. And you talked about that. The brother was excellent when he talked about cotton resistance. I think it was, and that is so. Right. That is a powerful law that all those who are practicing that so-called, they call it witchcraft. I don't like calling it witchcraft because Tarek Bey said today about calling Caucasians or whatever white or whatever non-melanated people that you give them your birthright, or American, you give them a birthright. By calling them witchcraft, there is a etymology or a origin of that word. And even the Bible says, "He who does not follow my law or war against me I take them as if it was witchcraft." So there's a kind of like a hang to that. Some people call it a magi or a magician, or some people call it
witchcraft and magician. Witchcraft, sorcery, and magic are not the same thing, though. They're not.
Okay.
They are different. They are different schools of thought. They are different. They use different implementations in their evocation or their manipulation of natural forces. So primarily, I can tell you this: they are a lot of similarities. Don't get me wrong, and they do all obey law. But the utilization or the implementation of that law, they may use different vehicles for doing that. In magic, you may have a wand. You may use some water, mirrors, things of that nature. But also there are a lot of, on the higher levels, you want to get to the level where you invoke things mentally through the use of your mind. So that's when that's a high level of discipline.
And make sure no one is connected
to the science that everybody's doing anyways. If somebody, the majority of people are doing it in an undisciplined state, in an unconscious state. You are the creator of your world already. It's just that right now your subconscious mind is dominating you because you don't know how to properly impress the subconscious mind with the direction that you want. You have a weak will. You're not utilizing your willpower properly. And that's what prayer and all that was about. Prayer was a form of discipline and directing the mind so it can impress the subconscious mind appropriately.
Channeling, yeah. I tell my daughter, I taught her the skill of channeling, and my sons too, about putting an object in their mind that which they desire. She wanted to get into a certain college, and I said, and she helped it. I said, well, you put it in your heart, you put it in your mind, and you put it in your heart because the ancestors, the God is going to see if you're truly serious about what you're saying. They're going to look into your heart. And if you got a picture there, you're doing your time, your mind, your energy, effort, your skill, your knowledge, everything you need. I gave her 7 principles. It'll come to you. You just got to be ready for it. And it came to her. She called me crying. She was so happy. I thought somebody had, put their hands on her. But she was happy that she got accepted into it. Hey, man, I'm telling you, it was the day before yesterday. She called me crying, brother. I was like 30 miles away. I said, okay, how am I to get there? Because I'm going to go to jail. Somebody's going to kill me. And she called me. She called me. I'm so happy for her. She called me, not because she got into college, because she put it in her mind. She put it into her heart, and she got exactly the color, the place, the city, the state, the zip code, what she asked for. And that's the way it works. I did it with my son. I told him, do it this way, that way, and it happened to him. And he only lasted 2 weeks, 2 months, but it happened for him. But the last thing, before I don't want to hold up the call, the last thing I want to really bring out, brother, I was doing a study into my law book, and a word came up called, and it falls into immaculate birth. Maybe the reason why they are really pushing this immaculate birth within the society still. And it's a legal term called crime against nature. And when you Google that, you go into crime against nature, go into burglary, go into confusion, and go into it's called term merger. and it deals up, and the reason why it's against the law, and it goes into intermingling or marrying light with black or color scheme, everything that's in India and America, which is forbidden. I think I heard in the class the other day that the reason why we have marriage certificate is because back in the day you had a so-called melanated wanted to marry non-melanated, and they had to get blood test permission or whatever. That's where the marriage certificate came from. I may have heard it wrong, but it made sense to me. But in law, there is, and this law still, and legal, it's called crime against nature, and it talks about the reason why they didn't want it, old English law, is because you may have a higher status person trying to marry a lower status person, and that higher status would overcome or subdue their lower estate or whatever. So it had to be all on this equal level. So maybe that's the reason why they got this so-called.
It goes into. I know in our organization, everybody who came in the Nawabi Nation had to have a blood test. We all had to have full, complete physicals. Everybody, and you had to know what your blood type was. We had to know everything about ourselves because there's some blood types that do not jive with each other. For instance, you have an O-negative blood type. Now, there is a monkey out there called the rhesus monkey that has an O-negative blood type. And sometimes you'll have certain blood types that will get together and they don't go together, and you'll get a condition called sickle cell anemia or something like that. So, it's like, I think that there is a basis for that. I haven't done the study enough. Maybe Mr. Ali, if he's still on, he can talk about it a little bit. But there is a basis for all the blood types are not the same. And I think that does, even when you look in antiquity or when you look in nature, you have the cat family. But you don't see tigers with lions. And you know what I'm saying? You have the dog family, but you see every kind stays with its kind, reproduces after its own kind. So I think that there can be some sort of disharmony with nature when the race is mixed. Now, I'm not saying this to be racist or anything. I'm not trying to please don't categorize me as some racist person. I'm just doing an observation in nature, and based off my limited scientific study into the field. And I've heard some people like Dr. Joel Pookrum and everybody say that human beings are not constituted the same way. We can't eat the same foods, all these different things. There are differences about us. That's just a fact. It's not being racist or anything like that. So I think when we just indiscriminately start marrying and things like that, yeah, I can see why people who are in the know would say, look, you got to get a license, because they still require you to get a blood test today before you get married. People aren't doing that. They're just going out, getting with somebody because they look good or the sex is good or something like that. They aren't doing a full examination of this particular person and not weighing in all of the different variables before they take on a mate. They take on a mate based off a couple of different variables. Oh, he made me feel good. He made me laugh. And he got some money. He drive a nice car. And
that's one of the things I told my son the other day. I said, man, he's pretty young. I told him I really put it on my oldest one. I hope it trickled down, so I don't have to say it so many times. But I told him, I say, you with this sister, go and get a blood test, man. I mean, the blood don't lie. That's the first gift I gave when I got married the second time. I gave her a blood test. She said she was okay. She don't need no blood test, but I wanted a blood test. And the other sister, I wanted a blood test. I want you to know who I am. I'm clean. If anything go through, everything is cool. And not only ask your questions, look at her background. How was her relationship with her father? Did she have a father? If she didn't have a father, she don't really, she shrugs her shoulder, say, I don't know about my father. I don't care about him. But what makes you so special? I mean, when that time comes and she has that attitude, she's going to put you to the side too, which is probably we having a lot of problems in relationships with the father trying to see a child. That woman or that sister probably didn't have a father in her life, so to not have you there is typical. That's part of her lineup. That's the politics of her background. And it goes back fall back up under that crime against nature. I think that I read a story about Joseph and Mary, how Joseph was from a lower class of people, and Mary was from, pretty much Joseph was a carpenter, and Mary, the story of the Bible, Mary was from a Shriner, and they grew up together, but when it came to marriage, her father forbid her to marry him because he was a lower stature.
Because I don't think carpenters were poor. I got to go back and check on that. Because the people,
right. Well,
they had a trade, so he was getting paid. I don't think Joseph was poor.
Well, right, but Mary being a daughter of a priest, priesthood, and the Levites cannot be touched. They can only marry Levites. The rule from the Old Testament. Right. They eat a certain food. They live a certain way. So he was not in that line of class, a creed, or whatever. So by her wanting to get with him or he get with her was a crime against that law of being set out, so I guess in the Bible. But I'm looking at that. I'm trying to apply it to today's term of law that's in standard, which still there. It's called the law against nature, and I was trying to find the same thing with.
I'm gonna give you something you can go check out. Go check out a word in a law dictionary called corruption of the blood. It's called that's a legal term. Corruption of the blood. It's called corruption of the blood. But let me move on. I got about 20 minutes left. I got to bring in a couple more callers, brother. But check that out. It's called corruption of the blood. Okay. Let me bring in another caller. Real quick, let me bring in Kansas, 913-7972. You're on our frequency radio.
Peace to the God.
Peace to the gods. What's going on, bro? What's happening?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I admire y'all conversation. I'm following it. I'm not a sophisticated scientist or educator, but what I can contribute, I will call in and contribute. Okay. Now, you was talking about RH. You was talking about the RH factor. I've done a little research on that. Now, the RH stands for the rhesus monkey. That's what it stands for.
Right.
And as my research showed me that if you know about your blood type, then a lot of blood types, some have RH factors, positive or negative. Agree with that?
Wait a minute. Okay, what did you say? A lot of blood types have what?
When you get your blood type, you will have an RH factor that comes with it, whether it's positive or negative. In other words, people with negative blood types, they have an RH factor. Okay, I give you mine for example. My blood type is A.
Right.
But my RH,
right.
my RH.
I mean, I'm not gonna say. I'm not. Wait a minute.
Let
me just say this. I'm not an expert on blood types like that. So, so go ahead. But I know what you're talking about.
I'm just contributing a little research I've done. I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm just contributing some research I've done. So, when I got my blood type, when I found my blood type, it was A negative. Right. So I always thought that was being a negative. I thought that was I don't want to be negative. So what I found out was that negative is the RH type, the monkey gene. So if you have a negative blood type, it means that you don't have that monkey gene. Most people, I'll say, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'll say most people have a RH positive. That's why you don't know about it. Most people don't know about the RH factor because it's positive.
Well, I know a large percentage of African Americans or melanated people have an O positive blood type. I'll read this for you. Do you have RH negative blood? Do you know how rare the RH factor is amongst the U.S. population? Only about 15% of the United States population have the RH negative blood, and the number of compatible donors gets smaller when you separate that into blood type. So those people who have that RH factor only make up about 15%. I have read we are only about 7% of the world's population, but have yet to confirm it with a current source. This chart only accounts for a portion of the world's population. There are 8 main blood types. Blood type A, B, AB, O, and O are the 4 main blood types. We get 8 in total because the RH factor and the blood types it produces, including A negative, B negative, AB negative, and O negative. Approximately 85% of the U.S. population have RH positive blood types, AB, or O, thus resulting in a very small population of the more rare RH negative blood types. For many years, type O blood was incorrectly considered to be the universal blood donor. However, modern medicine now recognizes type O negative blood to be only universal donor, with O negative blood being one of the rarest blood types and its ability to be accepted by any patient. I got to check that out, but that would probably make sense when I bring it into accord with natural law because negative means receptive. So that there may be some truth to that. The available supplies on hand are very low. Is it what is because this could be somebody just writing something and skewing it because it's not coming from I don't think it's coming from a doctor or anything like that. But I was trying to see, they didn't put the rhesus monkey in here. I wanted to pull up the part with the rhesus monkey and see how that RH negative blood and the reptilian connection.
Well,
monkey blood, RH negative blood types. Go ahead and talk.
Yes, I don't want to interrupt you. The RH stands for the rhesus monkey. So
I don't know if it stands for it. I don't know if that stands for rhesus monkey. Where'd you get that from? Is that what you said?
That's research I've done. That's why it's called RH. So really it means in the beginning, it was all people had negative blood, RH negative.
Well, it says almost all Chinese and almost all African Americans all have positive blood. Almost all of us.
Yes. Well, in other words,
the brother is accurate that RH is an abbreviation for rhesus monkey. He's absolutely accurate.
Oh, it is? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
in other words,
I haven't been able to verify that. I'd never heard that before, that it stands for that.
Yeah. But I did the research because I have that factor, so I wanted to know what it meant. That's why I did the research. So,
okay, let me ask you a question. Then how is it that there are 15% of the population has the same blood as a monkey, and people are saying we don't come from monkeys, but we carry the same blood?
There's a difference between, basically the research into the rhesus monkey is what arrived at the fact that they identified the rhesus factor as a protein that was connected to the blood types. That result came from the research on the rhesus monkey. That's why they call it the RH or rhesus factor. It didn't really have anything to do with the alignment of the similarity between the monkeys and the humans as Homo sapiens. It was really just, it's kind of like whenever a star gets named, they name it after the guy that found it. That's the only reason why it's called the rhesus factor.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you shared that because I was going somewhere else with it. I had come across some information. Like I said, I didn't do a total research, but some of the research showed me that. Let me just make this point: that if you had negative blood, then it means you did not have the monkey gene. So maybe I stand corrected. And most people, 85%, have that monkey gene, that RH factor, and the negative meant you didn't have it. But maybe I'm mistaken.
It was the other way around. The negative, RH negative, was the monkey factor, and the positive was not, because there's not that many people on the planet that have RH negative blood. It's not that many. They constitute the and I could be wrong. I don't know. Y'all can do the research on. I haven't been researching that information. So I'm going to reserve any type of further comments on that. But people should be aware that is being spoken out there and it is being talked about. Now, one thing I will talk about is the fact that if we all came from two of the same people, why are there 8 different blood types?
Well, we all been mixed up, brother.
I mean, what does that have to do with anything? It started with 2 different people. Wait a minute. I'm talking to the religious people out there. If everybody came from the same 2 people, why do you have all these different? There's only 2. We got 8 different blood types. It started with 2 different people that everybody supposedly came from.
Okay, well, that's too early for me. I'm going to yield the floor. I just want to make that point. I'm going to continue to do my research, brother. Thank you for your time.
All right, okay. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the call. That's a good point, though. It's a good point. That's good information. Let me go to good to have a doctor in the house, too. It was like I got a doctor online with me. Let me dip up to, let me see where I'm going to go real quick. We got about 15 minutes left to the hour before Ali Nation comes on. Let me bring in 337-1696 real quick. 337-1696.
Hello, peace, everyone. I like the conversation.
There you go. Well, okay, thank you. Welcome. What you got for me? You're out there in Louisiana.
Yeah, I'm out here in Louisiana, and all things are possible. So with that being said, I remember being born. Sure do. I remember right before the birth and after the birth. And guess what? Before, it was plain darkness, baby.
Okay.
It felt like I was water. Darkness and water. Y'all figure the rest out.
Okay, I don't know where you're going with it, but I can say this. I remember just flashing images. Probably when I was only a couple of months old, I can remember my mother bathing me like in this little like, it's not a pot, but it's like a tub they have for babies. And I can remember looking up at my mother and her smiling down at me while she was bathing me and different things like that. I got very, 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 very few images of that. However, the Scientologists claim that they have a process where they can help everybody remember all the way back to the womb and past the womb and to previous lives.
I can believe
that we've all
that
lived
one.
before.
I can believe that one. We not like y'all was saying earlier. We spirit in a body. I call our body a vessel.
Right.
Our body is a vessel, and because of that, I believe about the spirit. When you guys say we the spirit up in the vessel, but at the same time, believing that, I believe that we as humans and our children, we have too much, how can I say that, interference with us in our thinking process. I heard someone say, or maybe I read it somewhere, we only use a certain percentage of our brain.
Right.
Okay. I believe that because sometimes it's surprising, how can I say, sometimes it's surprising to what I come up with in my mind with my vibes, the vibrations, and the sound. So when I say feelings, I think that involves vibes. When you say feelings, I believe that involves vibes. I believe somebody can curse you.
Everything is vibration. Everything in creation is dealing with vibration.
Yeah, I believe that. But see, it was something else I wanted to say y'all was talking about in the beginning. I lost my thought, but then y'all please believe that water and darkness, that is the way that things are moving. So I'm not scared of darkness, I'm not scared of spirits, and I'm not scared of water, but water is very powerful. That's all I have to say. I enjoy the conversation.
You're absolutely correct. Before light was, you have to understand that the Creator exists in darkness. Light was something that was created, and light actually gave rise to confusion because that's when you were able to tell the difference between here and there. You could discriminate and do things like that. So I agree with you. And water. Let me tell everybody this: water has some magical properties. That's all I'm going to say. People should start doing a very thorough research into the power of water.
Yes, sir.
It is. Thank you. Appreciate it. Very insightful. Thank you, my sister, down there in Louisiana. Y'all down there with that in the voodoo land.
Well, my daddy wasn't no stranger.
He wasn't no stranger. He was a science man. They call it over. I got a friend, he in Jamaica. They call him in Jamaica out there in the deep backwoods of Jamaica. They call him science man. He's a science man.
Yeah, well, not just nature. He knew how to work with dirt, clay, and soil, and all kind of other properties. So I call that medicine. Be it mental or physical. I wasn't scared of my daddy either.
There's no need to be afraid of anything. I need to be afraid of nothing.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, my sister. Lovely, love your comments, and I appreciate you. Call back in whenever you feel the need, okay?
Peace.
All right, peace. I got time for one more call, y'all. I'm going to dip up to Michigan, 313-8214. I got about 10 minutes left before Ali Nation comes on. What's going on, brother?
Peace, Yusef. Peace to the God.
Peace to the God. You didn't think I was going to get you in, huh?
Yeah, I thought I came in kind of late, man, but I'm glad you got me in because I want to make a comment on that blood. Yeah, man, I'm more positive, and I did a little research on that, and it is the RH factor does come from the monkey, but I think when we kind of take it to the we look at it perspective from the melanin or being non-melanated, but that have nothing to do with it. It's all in the DNA where I think the difference is when it comes to that. Because a protein is different types of protein. There's different types of protein. So this particular protein with the RH factor, I think that came in as part of the experiment maybe with being introduced into the human.
Now, let me just say this. A lot of things we be ignoring, too, is the fact that we have a reptilian aspect associated with us, too. I mean, if the doctor's still in the house, in the first trimester, don't you look like a tadpole? Don't you go through the first trimester of the development of the fetus? Is that of a reptile?
Yeah, the fetus goes through the evolutionary process in the womb. That is correct.
Just wanted to bring that out to everybody's attention.
Okay, real quick. I know we ain't got that much time, and what I'm about to say, it was brought to my attention by a queen, man. She said she think that Eve was having relations with the serpent, and they only called him the serpent, to keep him unnamed. So if you put that with the Anunnaki story, with Enki and his brother, that kind of bring you mind too that maybe she did do that, because when you look at she was pointing out, I think she said that if Cain and Abel was the Adam and Eve's offspring, and then when Cain got kicked out, he found a wife. So that means there were other people outside of, I guess which would be Mesopotamia or Samaria.
He went to a place called Nod, and yes, there were other people on the planet during that time. That was my point in saying that they give you the Adam and Eve story as if these were the first two people on the planet, and they were not. They were not. What was being conducted in Eden was an experiment. And I'm going to show you, they got a movie right now out called Ascension that is right now on Sci-Fi, where they are taking 600 people and isolating them away from humanity and monitoring them to make a determination when these mental abilities will start to manifest in them. And it finally happened. But I'm saying that to say is that they isolated them in order to teach them certain things. And this word, they use the word serpent, but in Hebrew the word is nakash, and it means like a whisperer. But they have translated it to mean some sort of snake or something like that. It's like, these are the things that, we got to do shows like this, and we got to start examining. We have to start doing a thorough examination of what has been given to us. We have to. And that's why I do shows like this. Because we got to analyze this stuff. Because people if you really think about it on a certain level, a talking snake, think about it. Just think about it. A talking snake. Somebody is sitting back somewhere laughing their damn head off. These those crazy ass. Look what we did. We gave us, it got to be a talking snake. And nobody anywhere say anything about that being Lucifer or the devil. It's not mentioned nowhere in there that's who that was. And he cussed out the snake, say he's going to crawl on his belly for the rest of his life, eat dust, and, all this kind of stuff. And she going to kick you in the head, and your children and everything like that. When you read this story and scrutinize it, and it's like you have to stop and think, man, we accept fairy tales. Or a story has been given to us, watered down, and it's been twisted into a way where we'll never find our way out of it. We'll never get ourselves back to the truth. And that's what we're going to do to the. That's what we're going to do on High Frequency Radio. We're going to get to the damn truth. Go ahead, brother.
She had listened to you the other day when you was talking about the Genesis story, and she said she went back and reread it, and she said she read it a few times, and she said she didn't see it like this way before. So she was like, I'm reading this. It sounds like Eve was doing her own thing outside of the thing, you know, like today, you know, somebody might be going to have a little relationship on the side, and she said what it sounded like they put the word serpent in there, but like you said, if the serpent mean the whisperer, what would it, you know what I'm saying, if we look at that today, you go out somewhere and you got the dude that's, you know, whispering in your girl ear like, hey, I can do this for you, you know, go over there and look and eat that fruit off the tree, and, you know, he get you some wisdom, you know what I'm saying. It was just how she was putting it.
Next time next show I do, I'm gonna go in on that a little bit, and I'm gonna give you some of the alternative stories that were given to me of what actually happened between Eve and the snake, what actually was told to her, and what actually the fears that she had, which prompted her to disobey this Elohim that was in the garden with her and made her eat from the fruit of the tree. But right now I'm out of time, y'all. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Mr. Ali. I'm going to invite, brother, I need to invite you back. We need to do a show. Do you want to do a show with me, brother, Mr. Ali?
Yeah.
Want to do a show?
I'd enjoy that. Absolutely.
All right, let's do a show, man. How about Monday? When your availability? You know, or do you want to just?
Not a problem. What we'll do is you got my number and I got yours. We'll touch bases after this. We'll definitely get it on the schedule. Absolutely.
All right, bro. Let's do a show together, man. I like you. You was kicking some good knowledge. All right, y'all. That's it for me. Up next is Ali Nation. I'm out. I'll see you.
Доступ компьютеров персональный спутник.
Don't say that, change your lyrics. Everybody's a critic. It's getting kinda hectic. My rhyme is authentic, so it shall remain. My writing exciting, never mundane. In actuality, my personality keeps my mentality based on real life situations, not speculations, but verbal illustrations of how I feel.